Greetings, my fellow Americans. This is your president speaking. And today is Worldwide Wednesdays. I am 15 seconds late. I do apologize. One day we will be as punctual as the Germans and the Japanese. I actually confused myself. I kept trying to switch to scene number one, but that was scene number one. And my camera wasn't working well earlier, so I had to adjust the height there too. So anyway, hello Apolitical, hello Anna, and hello everyone else that's watching. Let me know if this introduction screen works for everybody. It's kind of, it is what it is the best I can say there. But today is Worldwide Wednesdays. That's the main takeaway. And we're going to go into Ronan's Professor Hour eventually here for sure. But the main takeaways are that Israel is already violating its ceasefire. There have already been 40 Palestinian deaths confirmed as of this morning, or from this morning alone, as well as more and more imaginative lines in the sand being drawn by Israel to make it harder and harder for Palestinians / Hamas to actually comply. There are some good points that we're going to hopefully be able to bring up today, if I don't get too carried away and lost in the sauce. And that is that the Straw Hat Pirates have been seen toppling yet another corrupt government. So maybe the future of liberation is actually the most liberated devil fruit eater themselves. Luffy with the gum fruit. So... oh, you mean Mr. President by Mr. Prez. I'm kind of... Oh, okay. Not the stream time? Well, did the stream update appropriately? It did. Okay, good. Because I see that it pops that up in chat, which is interesting. Oh, it is cut off? Shit. No, it's not. Is it? Hold on. I mean, it's... Okay, I put it too close to the edge. Probably shouldn't have done that. Alright, hold on a second. This wants to mess with me some more. Alright, is it better... There? That might not be as aesthetic. It might not be perfectly aligned, but, still. Anyway, I'm losing the crowd, as it were. So, by the way, if you're new to the stream, technical difficulties and me trying to figure out how to be a better streamer are par for the course. So, that brings us to the stream, the reason why you're here. Not just my beautiful visage and this wicked hairstyle that I've been pulling off lately. Kind of, kind of rocking that, or the sick pipe that I got, Gonna have to get me a what do you call that? A detective hat here soon. But these are what we're going to cover today. Oh, speaking of feckless Democrats, Biden. And then, of course, we got Netanyahu, Israel. And then, of course, Israel, right? Israel is playing games and not being honorable in this ceasefire. So, let's start here with... MAGA's backlash, and then we'll make our way forward. And quote, I have food today instead of snacks.
Backlash tonight from the MAGA base after this surprising announcement with great fanfare from the Trump administration.
I'm also proud that today we're signing a letter of acceptance to build a Qatari Emiri Air Force facility at the Mountain Home Air Base in Idaho. The location will be host a contingent of Qatari F-15s and pilots to enhance our combined training, increase lethality, interoperability.
He's sitting next to a member of the Qatari.
Here's my question. Qatari F-15s are American F-15s that we sold to Qatar. The F-15 is an American fighter jet. It is an American fighter airframe, right? It is something that the Americans created, right? Other countries have their own airframes, right? The Chinese call it their whatever. The Russians call it, I think the Russians had the MiG or something. And then the Germans have their own. And then I think most of Europe does buy U.S. weapons. But still, the F-15 fighter jet is an American frame. So why would we even give a shit that the Qataris are bringing... Like, this whole thing doesn't even make sense.
Royal family there, just to be clear. It's an announcement that caught everyone off guard. The administration greenlighting a plan for Qatar to build an Air Force facility in Idaho. And Trump's base is livid about it. Far-right activist Laura Loomer, who has Trump's ear, highly influential in MAGA world, lashing out. One of her posts, she says, "What the hell is going on? Why are we trying to train more Muslims how to fly planes on U.S. soil?"
Oh my fucking God. That is so racist. She's just all in on the racism. Good God. Right, Antifa Church, One Piece Revolution. That's crazy. I mean, that's... I have yet to be able to look into it. It was a busy day today at work, unfortunately, which may or may not be a problem, depending on how much more nonsense my employer wants to put on my shoulders. Do you think being a Zionist will hold the same weight as the term Nazi once did? I know it's like the same, but I hope it will. I genuinely think it's already beginning to hold the same weight. I think people, like, generally aren't familiar with the term Zionist or Zionism. I think they just think Israel and Jews, right? And that's the propaganda, right? Because if Israel was spreading Zionism instead of Judaism, right, and playing it off as if they were the victims of the Holocaust trying to get land, right, the propaganda would fall apart instantly. Because Zionism is not something that people understand, but people do understand the country of Israel is the country of Holocaust survivors. That's what people understand, because that's the propaganda that has been fed to the world since the end of World War II. Now, that being said, once the propaganda starts to unwind and unravel, I think then once people start learning, oh, wait, so what Israel was doing was Zionism, and what the Western society was doing was also Zionism, and what AIPAC and all these other groups are doing is also Zionism, and that they were perpetrating genocide, the collapse of economic markets, undermining democracy in every single Western country, and influencing politics in every single Western country. People will then be like, oh yeah, that's the bad stuff. And then I think it'll be conflated appropriately. Right, exactly. You had never heard of Zionism, but you have heard of anti-Semitism. And that's the thing. Until I got really involved in politics, I didn't hear about Zionism either. And of course, that is by design.
So, didn't we already learn our lesson? Why are we encouraging more Islamic infiltration of our country?
What's crazy is that CNN, on their live broadcast, is reading one of the most racist tweets to have ever been tweeted. And while discussing that Laura Loomer does have the ear of the president, and this is normal news. Like, this isn't immediate grounds for having her removed, imprisoned, charged, anything. They're just reading this like, wow, this is what's happening in the Oval Office now. This is the response against what's happening in the Oval Office. Like, this should be a massive, massive siren. Bullhorn, like, red flags, the everything. And this is just, oh, look, MAGA's falling apart. Like, bro, that's insane that is the main talking point of this.
Of Hamas and the Muslim Brotherhood. This is very bad for our national security. And by the way, she had a lot more where that came from. Laura Loomer, in fact, has fired off about 40 more posts on X, slamming the decision. 40 posts on this today. Watch them populate the screen.
Holy shit. You know, here's the thing. If you follow me on Facebook, like my personal page, I might post 40 times a day if I am extremely bored and scrolling through my feed and be like, tee-hee, oh, that's terrible, oh, that's awful, oh, I better make a statement about this, or like, oh, shit, spread the news, yep, share that, Like, I think at most I would probably post 40 a day. And I don't even think I get close. I think I get really closer to like a dozen or 20 in a given day if I am bored and happen to be on my phone all that time. This lady went off the rails spouting Islamophobia racism after an announcement within like the like, look at these timestamps: 12:44, 1:25, 12:40, 11:22 a.m. Like, she fired off 40 of these suckers in like 2 or 3 hours. That's nuts.
They're mad. At one point, writing, this is where I draw the
Like,
line.
look at this. 2:43, 3:10, 2:58, 3:08. Like, so 3:08, immediately 3:10. So she's like, enter, enter, enter. Like, damn. That's insane.
Voting in 2026. And then Steve Bannon came out and told Newsweek there should never be a military base of a foreign power on the sacred soil of America. Now, to clarify, Qatar is building a facility to house a squadron of F-15 pilots and teams. I mean, that's a lot of Qatari military personnel on an existing U.S. base. And maybe they're...
Now, to that point, I kind of agree, like, we shouldn't have foreign military established on American soil. But here's the counter argument. We're hypocrites for saying that, because we have military installations in just about every country on planet Earth. And if not on every single country, within an hour of striking distance of every country on planet Earth. So, we shouldn't have foreigners on our soil. It's like, buddy, we are in every European country. We're in Japan. We're in South Korea, right? We're in several places across the Middle East. I don't know, like, the specific names and bases that are in South America and Africa, but I'm confident we have South American and African bases. At the very least, we are operating in those theaters. So, like, to say, well, we shouldn't have foreign military assets in America is the height of hypocrisy.
There are serious security concerns with that, but there are concerns. There are when it comes to corruption. For one, this is the same country that gifted Trump the luxury jet. Remember the jet? Reported price tag on it was $400 million. The jet that Trump wants to use is Air Force One, right? That was Qatar. And by the way, when it comes to money, because it always does, Trump's family and the Qataris are business partners now. Eric Trump recently unveiled plans for a new golf course and a beachside resort in Qatar. And Trump's son-in-law, Jared Kushner, has raised billions of dollars from several Middle Eastern countries, including Qatar. Qatar is also central to the Trump's Middle East crypto strategy, which is now the bulk of his net worth, helped make his children billionaires. Most recently, Qatar also made sure to stay in Trump's good graces by rolling out the red carpet for the president during his visit as president. Fighter jets escorted Air Force One into the airspace of Qatar. On the ground, the spectacle had cyber trucks, horses, and camels, a welcome for a royal. But on top of all of that, there is this. Trump just signed an executive order defending Qatar's security, giving NATO-level security guarantees to Qatar. Which, by the way, just to be clear about what that could mean, I mean, it should be obvious, but I guess I should also note that Qatar has been hit with missiles from Iran and Israel, both in the past 3 months. It's an incredible...
Honestly, that's not a very... That wasn't a very equitable pause for her. Just to be fair, normally I'm bagging on CNN, like, really? Can you please do your job? Can you please report? Can you please point out the minutiae of how fucked up this X, Y, or Z thing is, right? She actually did that. She actually laid out the plane, the fact that the family is in cahoots with Qatari royal and business and all this, that, and the other, and now this Qatar deal is just adding fuel to the fire, right? On top of the fact that we're giving Qatar now NATO levels of protection after they got attacked by Iran and Israel. Israel getting NATO levels of protection from all of NATO through, money laundering, weapon systems, and the fact that Zionists are in every single position of power across Europe and America. So, for once, CNN has done an outstanding job painting a picture of outright blatant corruption. Now, is Qatar influencing American foreign policy? No, I don't think they are. What I do think Qatar is doing is manipulating the Trumps into protecting Qatari interests, right? Now, is that manipulating U.S. foreign policy? No, not to the same degree that Israel is manipulating both foreign and domestic policy. At this point, we may as well be called the United States of Israel because of how deeply entrenched Zionist Israeli powers are. Most people in Congress are either dual citizens of Israel or subscribe to Zionism or have received an astronomical amount of AIPAC money and go on the AIPAC field trip. So when we are talking about which country is most heavily influencing the United States of America and causing harm, then the only answer is Israel. That would be the only answer. Qatar is just taking advantage of a corrupt regime. Sorry, my screen refreshed and I tried pausing it 15 times and it just wouldn't. Point being, Qatar is simply trying to take advantage of the corruption that they know the Trumps are willing to get involved with. Now, that being said, they're getting involved in cryptocurrency. Qatar is obviously filled with wealthy individuals. Qatar is literally referred to as like the wealthy epicenter of the Middle East. So if these individuals are getting involved in cryptocurrency and you have even a tiny inkling of cryptocurrency in your pocket and you see the market doing what it's doing, rest assured, they are looking to take your money from you. That's the whole point of billionaires and countries getting involved in different markets. That's why the military-industrial complex is so powerful. It's the reason why banks are so powerful. Because once institutions get involved, or once they become institutions, they start manipulating markets and therefore populations. So, bravo. This is the first CNN video that we have watched in a very long time where I am genuinely approving.
Series of events. I mean, by the way, in any case, it's an incredible series of events to lay all that out. I can't even believe I'm saying it, and this is real, but it is. But then there's also this, what Trump actually said in the past on the record about the Qataris before they showered him with gifts and money.
The nation of Qatar, unfortunately, has historically been a funder of terrorism at a very high level.
And that right there is a big part of why MAGA is breaking with Trump over this Qatari Air Force facility in the state of Idaho. But by the way, this is not the only crack splitting the MAGA world. This was today, but Joe Rogan has spoken out, tearing into Trump's immigration policy.
Let's just talk about the immigration thing. The way it looks is...
So, hold on a second. I know that she's trying to portray that MAGA is falling apart and betraying Trump, but that's really not what's happening. At least not on a ground level. The people that have been supporting Trump that I unfortunately work with, and the regular laymen, they are still very much so supporting Trump. It's kind of like what happens in Washington, D.C. only affects Washington, D.C., and it's a big brouhaha because it's happening in Washington, D.C. But this is... so far, what she is describing are celebrities and influencers that are MAGA that are losing their mind. The actual general populace has probably no fucking clue that this even happened. Now, Joe Rogan talking about immigration, that might be different because the Joe Rogan Experience is the largest podcast, I think, globally, so his audience might be aware. But Laura Loomer doesn't even hold a candle to what Joe has. So, just to be clear.
It's horrific. When you're just arresting people in front of their kids and just normal, regular people that have been here for 20 years, that everybody who has a heart can't get along with that.
Thank you for the follow.
No. Everybody who has a heart sees that and goes, that can't be right. That can't be right. That can't be the only way to do this.
Tucker Carlson going after...
And I guess the only thing Joe had to say about that is that it hurts his feelings, his delicate sensibilities for seeing it happen. Is he condemning them? No. Is he holding them accountable? No. Is he encouraging his audience to condemn ICE and hold ICE accountable? Also no. So it's a bit of a stretch, but hey, at least it's a counter narrative. Laura Loomer looks like Jigsaw. That's not very nice. Yeah, the clown. No, I don't watch scary movies because then I can't sleep. But I know who Jigsaw is. No, I think he is called Jigsaw. I think that is definitely exactly his name. And she's only 32 years old and looks 60. Yeah, and that's the thing that kills me too, is that she's younger than I am and she looks rough. Now this lady, she might be about my age too, but she at least, looks normal, like her age. But Laura, oof. But then again, isn't Pam Bondi in her mid-20s and she looks like she's 40? Like, being evil really does age you.
To the administration for using Charlie Kirk's assassination to try to silence critics.
Because if they can tell you what to say, they're telling you what to think. There is nothing they can't do to you because they don't consider you human. They don't believe you have a soul.
Buddy, haven't you been on Fox News literally saying that immigrants and black people and Muslims aren't people and don't have a soul and are animals that should be, like, euthanized? And, like, isn't he the dog whistler of dog whistling? Except now he's on his own because even Fox News was like, buddy, you're getting a little too crazy. So yeah, that's rich coming from Tucker.
And when it comes to Jeffrey Epstein, Marjorie Taylor Greene slamming a statement by the White House that labeled
no,
any
that's
support
actually
for the
surprising.
release of the Epstein files as a, quote, hostile act.
The hostile act has been against these women for so many years now. The hostile act is covering up for Jeffrey Epstein and everyone else that's been involved in this. And that's the real hostile act.
Kristen Holmes.
Okay, so the hostile act isn't like an actual act. It's just using Trump's words against him, which is really weird because what a weird phrase when talking about a convicted pedophile trafficker. I would not know Tucker Carlson was bad if I did not know his background, right? Because at the present, if you hear him on the news now, he sounds fairly reasonable because he's actually challenging conservatives on their rhetoric. He still says some batshit things from time to time, but it's significantly less than what we're used to seeing, for sure.
Holmes is out front live outside the White House. And, Kristen, obviously we're putting in the context of so many issues where there are fault lines. But tonight, real anger in MAGA world about this latest announcement. What are you learning?
Yeah, there is real anger about that. And I do want to talk about the cracks overall, because I actually think what we just learned moments ago, which is not about the Air Force Base, but actually about these federal worker layoffs, is going to cause real strain on the relationship between the administration and a lot of Republicans on Capitol Hill, because we've just learned in a court filing that more than 4,000 federal workers were laid off today. And just to give you an idea of what that looks like, it's about 315 workers at the Department of Commerce, 466 workers at the Department of Education, 187 at the Department of Energy. That list goes on and on. A couple things to point out here. There were already reservations among Republicans as to how this shutdown was being handled. We've heard them speak out about it. The fact that the House has not been called into session. The fact that these workers' pay was being threatened. We heard President Trump saying some workers didn't deserve to get paid, and at one point saying they were going to look at the law differently, the law he signed in 2019, to say that they wouldn't have to pay those furloughed workers. But now...
And sorry that I'm not commenting more. I'm doing more listening today, it seems. And part of it is because I'm actually shocked that they're reporting. Like, this is the journalism that we've been waiting for. Like, this is the journalism we've been needing for the past 9 months. A baby could have been born in the time that we needed this level of journalism. Point out the problems, point out the dissatisfaction, point out the hypocrisy, point out the illegality. literally tell people that what they are seeing and hearing is exactly what they are seeing and hearing, and that they should be upset, that they should be outraged. Like, it's finally happening, and my mind is blown. I'm sorry. Like, it's crazy to me. Right, I'm not mad yet because for once they're actually reporting on things the way they should. So anyway.
Now you have a complete restructuring of the federal workforce. Of course, we know that the president has extended powers during a government shutdown, but it's really unprecedented to use them in this way to restructure the government essentially in your image. Because what we know from Russell Vought, the head of the Office of Management and Budget, and from President Trump is that they want to cut Democratic programs. They want to cut programs that don't align with President Trump. And now
that's actually pretty insidious too, if you think about it. Let me put the Oval Office back up there. That's very insidious if you think about it. Because, again, if he can't get the Insurrection Act, and if he can't declare a state of emergency, he has extended powers during a government shutdown because I don't know what part of the Constitution says that, but sure. For the sake of argument, if he can't manufacture consent for his authoritarianism, and he can't justify implementing specific acts that would give him the powers outright, he could literally, and is, using the government shutdown to be an authoritarian regardless. Now, the problem with that is several-fold, of course. The courts are going to get involved, and then eventually, once Congress does hold a vote, that's going to cause problems too. But at the same time, all of these court hearings, all of these findings, all of these Trump can't do this, and they need to rehire, and they need to do X, and they need to do Y, doesn't stop the administration from doing it. It just means the things that they did do and got caught doing and were held accountable for are being walked back. But the remaining majority of the things that he's been throwing out there are not. And that's the problem. The courts are too slow to counteract all of the corruption that's happening all at once, which should be a trigger to being like, okay, buddy, listen, you've tried to violate the Constitution 50 times this week. You are undermining the Supreme Court decision week after week, day after day, hour after hour. You are clearly not following the Constitution, and you are very clearly trying to undermine it and establish yourself in a way that is not presidential as outlined in the Constitution. The fact that that is not triggering some sort of actual response, like, and you are now being arrested, you are now being charged, you're now being held accountable, is insane. And don't even fucking tell me, well, technically, all presidents are immune now. It's like, okay, so does that mean the 25th no longer applies? Does that mean the president can no longer be impeached? Because if we're saying that, then the law that says he can't be charged undermines the actual Constitution, which should supersede any law that was created in addition to, right? If the Constitution is the ultimate authority, right? And amendments to the Constitution being the ultimate authorities as well, right? It starts with the Constitution and then you amend it, right? If we're saying that an arbitrary federal law was passed that invalidates amendments or articles to the Constitution, then those laws by default are inadmissible. They're unconstitutional. They cannot be enforced. They cannot be allowed. Doesn't matter if they got voted into effect. And and never mind that it was voted on in the first place and passed. Again, if you are proposing unconstitutional laws and then voting on them and passing them, then you are doing unconstitutional things, violating your oath, and that should be a crime. And it should be an immediate crime. It should be an immediate triggering event where that person gets arrested and removed from office. Now, let's let her finish, because she's still on a roll.
We're learning how many people lost their jobs just today. And that was a real point of contention for a lot of Republicans. They didn't like the threats about money. They didn't like the threats of layoffs. And now you're seeing the actual layoffs. And how this impacts the framing of this shutdown is really going to be what's interesting to watch, because it does not seem as though any side is backing down, even though you've got this real uneasiness among Republicans when it comes to this kind of behavior.
So, even though the Republicans are scared, And even though the Democrats are cowardly pieces of shit with no spine, there is still no progress being made because despite being spineless, they're for once holding their ground, but they're failing to conquer the narrative, take control of the narrative, and blame everything and lay it on the lap of Republicans who want to take our money, our resources, our services, and our government and give it away or get rid of it outright. And the fact that this is the first news clip, and from 4 days ago no less, the fact that this was the first one that we have seen in 9 months that actually spelled it out is shocking, to be honest. And the fact that more people aren't jumping on board with it, right? Democrat or Republican. This is finally the crack, as they were saying, in the armor of MAGA, of Trumpism, right? We are finally seeing cracks form, but nobody's out there hitting them harder. It's just, we're just seeing the cracks, the small little cracks happen, and we're just being like, ooh, wow, there's a crack, I hope it shatters. It's like, no, you need to hit it. Like, grab a hammer and maybe a sickle. Do I have a terrible internet connection today? I guess I didn't pray to the internet gods.
Ottawa has updated its travel advisory for the U.S., adding a cautionary note now about gender-neutral passports.
So Canada issues passports with the X marker for those who don't identify as strictly male or female or non-binary citizens. The advisory warns those travelers that plan to enter through other countries, including the U.S., might not be able to. The advisory further notes that some international countries and travel companies may not recognize X as a gender identifier, and travelers might still be required to choose male or female when traveling. People are advised to verify the information with the closest foreign representative for their destination.
Now, go figure that there was a playback error. No shit, Sherlock. Now, how insane is it that your civil liberties can be dictated by other countries and whether or not you can travel from your country? So again, we allegedly live in a free, open society, in a global one at that, right? If I want to go to China, I can. If I want to go to Bangladesh, I can. And if you're German, you can go to Bangladesh or China. If you're Spanish, you can go to Bangladesh or China. If you're Brazilian, you can go to Bangladesh or China, right? You can travel anywhere in the world. There's usually some, stricter visa requirements or whatever else. But for the most part, you can travel wherever you want in the world. Except now, the world is slipping back into fascism, and the first thing that they target is transgender identity. What the fuck is going on? I mean, I'm hardlined into the internet, so, there should not be... Find out why. Yeah, that's not helping. Guess I'll have to run a quick diagnosis. Or is that going to freeze on me too now? What the hell's going on? Holy shit. Well, it says there's no problems, and it's clearly we're having problems. Can we run the fucking test, please? All right. Yeah, actually, I don't know why either, because I'm getting the 8 megabits that I'm usually sending and receiving. Did I get doxxed? Did I get taken down? We were being too radical on the internet. Shit. All right, hold on a second. Come on. Can you stop fucking with me for 5 seconds? Really? All right. Video unavailable? Oh shit, I think my channel just got taken down. Wow. Well, no, because I did just load. Oh, yeah, no, I think,
With the genocide in Palestine.
Okay, so some of my videos will play. That's nuts.
My fellow Americans.
Okay. That's nuts. Bro. Well, I guess gonna have to close out of that. And I'm curious. Alright, so we can at least play our communist music. Well, I'm gonna go ahead and clear my my cookies and browsing data. It shouldn't do anything to OBS. That's nuts! It's not just... Oh. Well, I already hit the button. All right. All right, so I'm still on Sam Ronan streams. Okay. YouTube is down? Man, what a time to stream, huh? All right, well, hold on. Well, my internet now doesn't want to work, period. What is going on? All right. So, suffice to say, that was unexpected, to say the least. And it's back. Okay, well, that's interesting. So, let's just, how could YouTube go down? Isn't YouTube part of Google, which is, you know, $1 trillion multinational company?
This morning, President Trump says phase 2 of the ceasefire in Gaza is underway, but phase 1 is not yet complete, with Hamas failing to release 24 of 28.
Uh-oh. I didn't like that. I just tried to set it to light theme. I guess I shouldn't have done that. By the way, I only set it to light theme because it makes... I don't have a ring light, so... makes that look a little nicer. Oh my goodness. Well, now that I have to log back into everything... So wait, when I went to device theme, it worked, but now that I did light mode, they're like, only serial killers and terrorists use light mode. Damn, that's nuts. I can't believe this happened, or that this is currently happening. Well, yeah, it's seriously not working. Okay, so, YouTube outages reported in the past 24 hours. Yeah. It sure is. Yeah, let's be mildly productive. Good call.
שהמחיר יהיה כבד מצוא, כרגע המחיר לא כבד מצוא, התקפה רבת היקף על הרשות הפלסטינית. תביא אותם לפחד שהכל מתמוטט.
לא פוחדים, רגע, אבל אז השוק העולם יגיד מה, אתם כובשים?
אני לא להגיד כלום,
אתה לא מפחד מהעולם, ביבי.
במיוחד היום עם אמריקה, אני יודע מה זה אמריקה, אמריקה זה לא שאפשר להזיז אותו בקלות, אבל לא יפריעו לו.
אז שאם אנחנו עושים איזה משהו, אז הם...
יש שווה, אז נניח שהם אומרים משהו, אז אמרו, 80% מהאמריקאים תומכים בה. זה אבסורד, יש לנו שם תמיכה כזאת, ואנחנו אומרים מה נעשה עם ה...
Wow. Yeah. I didn't even have to read chat. Anna read my mind. That's gnarly. And again, I assume that you find these videos and that you trust Abdurrahman to not post, AI shit that's fake, that this is credible. But here's the thing. Even if this is AI and even if this isn't a credible source, the real problem is that Netanyahu, Israeli ministers, and Israeli military officials, Israeli religious leaders, and religious influencers, and Israeli this, that, and the other have all said this at one point or another in 4K. So whether he was in his living room talking about it or not is irrelevant because they 100% did. Excuse me. They 100% did this, said all this in 4K in the present. It's a 2001 channel 10 link. You can Google it. But that's awesome. The fact that, well, it's not awesome, right? But it's awesome that it's real. It's not awesome that it's actually, that's what he said. And it also goes to show that Israel really has been planning for this moment, the erasure of Palestinians, for well over 24 years. Because if he's been saying that in 2001, he's absolutely been saying it prior to that. And again, the fact that Netanyahu has been in power for 24 years is insane. Yeah, we can play that over again. So this is in 2001.
לתת להם מכות, לא רק מכות כל כך מכילות, שהמחיר יהיה כבד מצום. כרגע המחיר לא כבד מצום. התקפה רבת היקף על הרשות הפלסטינית. תביא אותם לפחד שהכל מתמוטט.
לא פוחדים. רגע, אבל אז שוב פעם העולם יגיד מה, אתם כובשים? אתה לא מפחד מהעולם, ביבי.
במיוחד היום עם אמריקה, אני יודע מה זה אמריקה. אמריקה זה דבר שאפשר להזיז אותו בקלות. לא יפריעו לו.
אז אם אנחנו עושים איזה משהו, אז הם...
יש שווה, אז נניח שהם אומרים משהו. אז אמרו, 80% מהאמריקאים תומכים בנו. זה אבסורד, יש לנו שם תמיכה כזאת, ואנחנו אומרים מה נעשה עם ה...
שמונה, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
So, all of that to show that what we are experiencing, what we are seeing happen in Palestine today and how the Israelis think and feel and act is not new, hasn't been new. And everybody that's been saying, like, Israel has been the enemy for a very long time, like, that's the evidence we've been looking for. And I mean, that's the fact that that clip isn't going viral again 24 years later, after 2 years of genocide and violating a ceasefire, that is absolutely batshit insane. No denying he knows what he is doing. Exactly. And again, the thing that I don't think people noticed enough, or probably aren't talking about enough, is the reliance on American compliance and support. None of what Israel did or does is possible without American support. Without this flag and this office, Israel couldn't do a goddamn thing in the Middle East against Palestinians or anyone. And that's the point. America, the country, is literally kowtowing to Israeli foreign policy. American government is in the palm of Israeli Zionism. And that is the point. That is the problem. That is the whole issue. That is why Israel needs to be held accountable and why every single motherfucker in this country with power and authority also needs to be held accountable, because they are all complicit in complying with Israel. And the Zionists still make excuses for Bibi in Israel. And even though Bibi is being faced with criminal misconduct in Israel, he's still holding the reins of power and directing them. It's absolutely insane how much slack this guy is getting and being given, not only by his own country, but by the whole world. All right, so that is only increasing. That number is going up. Okie doke. We'll refresh it real quick. But yeah, it's does not seem to be working. Okay. So, I don't think we need to cut the stream. I guess what we're going to have to do instead, though, is either A, we can play a game, which is what streamers normally do on this thing, or we can do Q&A and I can just talk about the issues as they are happening. Can you try to watch signed out? No, so here's the problem. This number was like 247,000 like 5 seconds ago, and now it's 31,987, and now it just jumped to 33,1912. And if we refresh it, okay. So it probably updates every minute. So no, this is well, I don't know why your YouTube would be working and mine isn't. I do not know. I don't know. Can you watch the rest of the video? There's way more statements of Israeli politicians.
We were looking for babies, but there is no babies left. Maybe I killed a girl, she was 12, but I'm looking for a baby.
It's an entire nation out there that is responsible. This rhetoric about civilians not aware, not involved, it's absolutely not true.
אין כזה דבר חפים מפשע בעזה. אין חיה כזו.
אנחנו מטילים מצור מוחלט על העיר עזה. אין חשמל, אין מזון, אין מים, אין דלק. הכל סגור. אנחנו נלחמים בחיות אדם ואנחנו נוהגים בהתאם.
You know, I'm very puzzled by the constant concern which the world and also Britain, I must say, Mark, is showing for the Palestinian people, and is actually showing for these horrible, inhuman animals who have done the worst atrocities that this century has seen.
Yeah, can you find a less graphic video next time there, Ari? Because those were some very real bodies and very real carnage in that video. Granted, I guess Al Jazeera English isn't going to post that stuff on their page. They want to, you know, continue getting subscribers and viewers. But, I mean, I wasn't quite prepared for that either. And that, I mean, that's pretty, I would have at least preferred warning if you're going to watch the trigger warning or something, content warning. But yeah, no, Israel has 100% been in cahoots. They have 100% been, this has been their end game all along. They have not treated the Palestinian people with anything resembling humanity or civility. It is pure, unmitigated malice and vile behavior. And it's disturbing, to say the least. All right. So it is not looking like we're getting YouTube back anytime soon. So, that does leave us with the option. All right, those were not the exceptions of what they did. It is the rule. They do the inhumane things. They go after civilians, and they don't view Palestinians as anything other than something to slaughter. And that's why Israel and Zionism will be synonymous with Hitler and the Nazis. And it cannot happen soon enough, because the sooner those monsters are put to bed, the Israeli Zionist leadership, the sooner the world may, in fact, know peace. So, yeah, YouTube definitely is not having a good time. There is a game that I've been wanting to play. We've just not had the opportunity to do that because, well, quite frankly, the world's been on fire. Now I can't find it. Now that we might actually have the opportunity to play it. Oh, because I didn't scroll all the way up. That would make sense. I bet YouTube got cyber attacked. Yeah, maybe because there was too much sympathy happening for Palestinians and too much sympathy happening for getting rid of Trump. Again, the No Kings protests are ramping up. ICE agencies are continuing to terrorize Latinos. So, I mean, there could be any number of reasons why that YouTube is getting attacked or hacked or some other thing. Yeah, funny because you're Latina. Usually they target you first before they target me. Maybe it's your vampire powers come home to roost. Coming into use. Coming into play. Ah, crap, I made a mess. Ooh. And I just dropped something. You know, I could just shamelessly plug my game real quick before we play a game. And then again, I guess there's nothing stopping us from doing politics on a political channel and talking about foreign affairs. It's just, I don't really know if, like, would you guys want me to talk about what's been going on and what I'd be doing differently? I don't know that I got 2 hours worth of that in me. Well, it is my stream after all. It's this guy's stream. She can watch it, but not me. Yeah, no, that's nuts. But yeah. Actually, no, we'll stick. I'd be violating the Hatch Act if I leave the 48th president up. I mean, I guess I'm in the Oval. It doesn't. I mean, what is the Hatch Act anyway? If you can just accept and bribe and do all these things anyway, right? So, I will go ahead and quickly show Esoterra. Where's the other binder? Oh, I had already set it up. Ugh. So, Anna, if you could share the esoterrauniverse.com and chat for everybody. So, I created a game called Esoterra. And it's a card game that is based off of Triple Triad. And these are the cards, or just some of the cards, I guess. And the idea is that the cards represent various cultures, religions, and societies throughout history. And that the naming convention also includes that. I also, as you can tell, have focused primarily on showcasing women of color and women specifically. Why is that? Oh, except for the slave, who's white. Why is that? Because in most fantasy and culture, pop culture that is, it's white dominant. It's Eurocentric. And there is no emphasis on Latino culture, on African culture, on Asian culture, on Middle Eastern culture, on Pacific Islander culture. There's no other cultural emphasis other than whiteness. And if there is a hero that happens to be black, then the entire movie tends to revolve around the fact that they're black instead of a hero. Whereas, sure, these cards, right, you got Michael, you got Gabriel and Raphael, which are the angels, the archangels listed in the Bible. So these are about the text, the faith, right? And what I did is created backstories that kind of showcase that although they are angels and although they are considered the light, they are in fact blinded. And so I actually created like a universe with its own power structure and power scaling that kind of depicts why things that are good go to extremes become bad, or things that are considered unknown only are bad once they go to extremes, right? Pursuing science, not an issue. Pursuing medicine, not an issue. When you start experimenting on people and animals without any regard for their safety or well-being, that's fallen, right? So it's just my take on sci-fi and fantasy tropes. I even have like in the back here, I have some critters. So, right, you got like your bugs and you're like your little dinosaurs, and then you got like your alien creatures with like the lots of tails, right? Lots of tails, and then like your legendary weapons and such, right? So there's QR codes on the card. She actually happens to be one of my favorite cards. So this is the Pontifex. She is the Sorcerer Supreme, if you will. And if you do the QR code, it'll actually take you directly to her page that I created, a website. Fortunately, it's on Wix, so I'm going to have to eventually transfer that once the billing cycle wears out, because I didn't know Wix at the time was Tel Aviv. But all of which is to say, if you want to learn more about the card, you can literally, while playing the game, you can QR code the card and learn about it. Because when you play other games like Yu-Gi-Oh! Or Magic the Gathering, if you want to learn more about a card or the history of the card or just anything to do with the card, you can't. You have to either Google it and hope that there was some information and then go down whatever rabbit holes are granted to you, or you are SOL. I made it explicitly accessible. So if you wanted to learn about the Alcazar, if you wanted to learn about the Sila or the Shad Havar, right? If you wanted to learn about these different cards, you can just QR code it, and that page will get you right there. So there's that. Those are the actual cards that come with the game. And then there's also prints of every single card. Whichever one's your favorite, you can have a print of it. And I think these are 8x10. Or these might be 8.5x11. I don't know. So you got your angels, you got Lilith and Lucifer, you got your different sins, or I think this one's avarice, and then gluttony. And then like you got the big bad of Esoterra Universe, the Tyrant Queen. You got the blue, the aliens. The aliens. You got the Kriega, which are the Saiyans. And then you got regular people, like humans, dystopian. And if we scroll through here, we got one of the cutest ones, the Al-Miraj, which is a Middle Eastern fantasy creatures. And then what else do we got? The unicorn, of course, which is the unicorn, self-explanatory, right? And then one of my favorite creatures that I created was the Oscura. I think that is just nightmare fuel. And these are part of the Desarollo, which are essentially what would Pokemon actually look like and function like if they were real creatures. So there's a lot of science behind this. There's a lot of in-depth research and culture and naming convention, as well as ways to justify how like the special fancy thing actually happens. And then really sweet scythe, right? So these are also available on the website. And if I ever go to a convention again. Conventions are expensive, yo. But who knows? If crypto starts going well, or if this stream goes well and I can promote it from time to time, who knows what happens. Simply Steve, welcome to the stream. I haven't seen... Sorry, I didn't see you earlier. Let's see. Trump sells this shit made in China from the Oval Office. Right, and I mean, technically, so worse the game. Partially because if you actually want to manufacture in the United States, you have to offer orders that are in the thousands or the tens of thousands, or else they won't even talk to you. And by the way, 1,000 cards is like $20,000 just to manufacture, never mind to resell. So, ICE is shooting pastors who are praying for peace in the head with pepper balls. So, yeah, it is definitely like that. You feel so outworked? Well, so to be clear, what I showed was the latest iteration of the game. The first iteration of the game, I was trying to model it after Final Fantasy 14 triple triad cards. And so it was blue backgrounds, and then I made one set. There is one set in the whole world that has a red background, but they were blue, and it was a different costume design. They were more angelic, and traditional demon, right? More armor and fantasy type things rather than, you know, embracing the actual ethos of what the characters were. That was one of the arguments, and the fact that the blue backgrounds made the cards look a bit too plain, and then that there was no way to interact with the card itself, as in you couldn't actually study the card. So I came up with the whole thing, because I was trying to build a competition to Warhammer 40k. Yeah, even nerdier, I know. And what it turns out is that wasn't the hard part. Creating an entire new game that's modeled after Warhammer 40k, and the models and the backstories and the points and this, that was easy. Time consuming, sure, but fundamentally easy. The problem was the minis. And even though I had an industrial 3D printer that could print like 100 or 200 models at once, that's the problem. If you can print 100 items, or 200 items, or even 300 items, guess what you have to do? You then have to remove them. And then you have to cure them. And then you have to make sure that the sprues don't break the model itself. And then. The process would have been astronomical just for the 3D printing. Enter the boxing, the packaging, and then the shipping and handling. It was absolutely not possible. So I converted all of the work I did for the Warhammer game, turned it into that first iteration of the cards, and then when I got the cards out there at the first convention, I got feedback from a black entrepreneur from Columbus who kind of tucked me under her little mama wing and gave me the opportunity to showcase the game to her friends, family, and interested parties. And the feedback they gave me is what directly led to the cards in this binder, or the current iteration. So a white guy created Esoterra, but a black woman came up with design, interaction, and marketability through that design. So this game is very much so catered towards every single demographic that is not typically represented in games or fantasy or sci-fi. And quite frankly, just because I'm the creator, I'm a little Filipino, I'm 20% Filipino, doesn't mean that I would never... In fact, the idea would be to actually get real models and real cosplayers to do the shoots of each of these characters and then redo the cards with actual people representing the real cultures that the cards are meant to represent. So, like, sky's the limit as far as that goes, and I would absolutely use the profits from Esoterra to fund the revolution, but, you know, I never get a chance to talk about it, so I'm really glad we did this. The power of woke autism. Shit, it is true. Okay, so questions about the actual game. So, here are the cards themselves. Just gotta grab them here. So, I sleeve my cards because, obviously, I did, however, choose a card material that's pretty durable. I mean, if you bend it, it's gonna bend, right? It's still paper at the end of the day. But the edging and the quality of it should allow you to play without it becoming too much of a problem. But the thing is, when shuffling, it's a lot easier to shuffle with sleeves than it is with not sleeves, okay? And then you don't have to worry about bending your cards as much either, because most people don't like to bend their cards. So, the idea is, you have a 40-card deck, no duplicates. You shuffle, 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 you know, you can cut the deck, you know, give it to the player. And then, you draw your hand of 5. When you have your hand of 5, right, the idea is you play the cards on a grid. Now, how many players are there supposed to be? That's the neat part. You can play with 2 players, which is the traditional way to play, and you can play with as many as 9 players if you play on a traditional mat, which... looks like this. Right? Now, since I obviously did not set up this stream to play Esoterra, it's going to be very difficult to show how this is played. But picture tic-tac-toe versus war. And actually, there are a couple videos, like on YouTube, which doesn't help us because YouTube is down, which is why we're doing this, that actually highlight how to play as a tutorial. And then I think this one guy, he's like a game creator or a reviewer, and he did a tutorial video as well. But the idea is each card has these 4 numbers, right? And they correspond to the sides of the card. So 8, 4, 7, and then 6. And I know these are reversed, so just bear with me on that. And the idea is if I were to place this card, well, if I were to place this card here, then and say there was a space here and a space here, like imagine there was a grid here. I could probably upload one, but that's going to be really fast. Anyway, say there was a card here and I wanted to capture it. That means I could capture the 4, the 6, or the 8, which in this case, if I played this card, the 7, which is up top, beats the 4, which is the bottom here. The way to determine which card is captured digitally is by flipping it, right? But that would be a 3-dimensional product that you can't... Like, that would be a 4-dimensional product. A front, a back, and an actual, the card back design, right? Because if you don't have sleeves and it was double back, then, and if I was holding it and I didn't have sleeves or I had clear sleeves, you could see my hand, right? So you have to design it this way. So the solution to that problem is one person plays tapped, one person plays straight up and down. So if this was the tapped player and I wanted to capture it, so I would play, this was first, this was second, the 7 beats the 4, it now becomes the straight up and down player. Well, the next person comes in and wants to capture that right back. Not that I have one right away. Oh, perfect. So I do. So the tapped player happens to have a card with a 9. I don't think you can see that there. The 9 at the bottom. The 9 beats the 8, right? So you capture it, and then it goes like this. So that in of itself can be fairly challenging. There's been plenty of people who have played this game with just doing that, and it goes back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. But there's things called esoteric anomalies, which goes back to the lore of the game. What is Esoterra? In a journey, our wayward hero journeys forth into the universe for the first time. It is skill-based, yes. I would say it's skill-based. It's also very strategic, and the more anomalies you use, the more strategy and skill is involved, I would argue. And there's also, like, high card, like, so you'd play in the rounds. Okay, is your YouTube working? Okay. Let's see if mine's working real quick, because at that point I would like to just share. All right, so mine's still not working. Oh, wait, it might be working, but now we're going to do Esoterra for a second. We're going to finish up Esoterra first. All right, so... So this is the... Oh. Well, cool, I didn't dox myself. That works. This is the whole website. All right, so these are 2 characters fighting it out. And then the gameplay video, or nope, I guess this is just the gameplay page. It's been a second since I looked at my own website. It shows you how to play the rules, get to places, but what matters is the anomalies. These are your game modifiers that make the game that much more complex, and there's plenty of them. And the best part is, as you play the game, as you, the player, play the game, and you and your friends come up with different rules, submit them to me, and I will add them to the website. This game is very much so community-based. In fact, everything from balance, like these are the ones I created, right? These are the original. All of these, like this whole, all these that are currently highlighted in blue were player submissions. So I'm just saying, like, the game itself isn't just what I created. It's what you guys come up with as well. It's just happens to be my cards. But there are other existing Esoterra style cards out there. They're just not mainstream, right? There's the original Triple Triad from Final Fantasy VIII, Final Fantasy XIV, and then there are cosplay deviants, but those are 18 plus. Just leave it at that. Sam taught me how to play in 15 minutes, but I wasn't very good at it. I am invested now, but you have to address the leaving out the Latinas allegations. Oh, that's right. I was the next. So I did represent Hispania and Latin American like culture to a degree with the Desorolo, which is the Pokemon if they were real, using Spanish as the naming convention and like their backgrounds and so on and so forth, right? But actually doing an Aztec or a Mayan or a traditional Latin, like central, like from Mexico down to the tip of Argentina, that was going to be one of the next sets that I was going to create. But the problem is, buying 100 of these is $3,000, and I can't profit off of it very well. And so creating the next batch of cards and cultures, and then actually like creating them is free because I already have the software. But then ordering the cards and distributing them, that is a cost prohibitive effort before people actually start taking the game and participating in it. But I do 100% have plans for Latin American culture, indigenous culture from North America, South America, and across the globe. I have, well, we kind of covered Middle Eastern culture, but like true Middle Eastern background, Japanese, Nordic, because we don't have Norse, and we also currently don't have Roman, Greco-Roman. There's a bunch of pantheons that I haven't covered yet. Like, we don't have Mesopotamia, right? And as far as the aliens go, we have Anunnaki and we have the blue, but we don't have the gray. We don't have Arcturians. We don't have Pleiadians. We don't have Andromedans, right? We don't have star seeds, right? Yeah, that's right. I know about star seeds. Oh yeah. Trust me. You can't make a game like this without jumping down a friggin' rabbit hole. Let me tell you about that rabbit hole. But anywho. Here's the Let's Play tutorial. I made this in PowerPoint. But I guess YouTube might be working a little bit now. So let me, if you want to learn to actually play, if you actually want to see how to play, that's one of them. And then if Esoterra, this is the video that was created on my behalf to actually do it. And then I tried doing JRPG style storyboards. I don't know if you can hear that. I guess my audio is off. So, for your viewing pleasure, I have 7 subscribers on Esoterra The Awakening. And those, I can go ahead and make those videos whenever. I think I still have quite a few that I could still upload. But, yeah, thank you for indulging me in my modicum of creativity. So, it looks like, though, we are back in business.
In this session, we are calling the energy of financial abundance into your life.
Got some random shit going now, too. Awesome. 8 subs. Thank you, Apolitical. Actually, you know what's funny? Of all the things that you can do on this website, I don't think I actually made it possible to buy from the website. Oh, there's... Okay, don't pay for this because I don't have the means to actually facilitate. I need to edit the website, so please ignore that for now. But yeah, I guess you can't buy again because it's kind of cost prohibitive. Like, I try to, so the game comes in a single pack or a 2-pack for the cards, the QR cards, but because of how much it costs to manufacture and what I actually wanted to price them at, it would be $40 for the 2-pack, $20 for the single pack, right? But then you're talking about shipping and handling, and that starts at like $20 because of how high the post office has gotten recently. So, I if you want, by all means, but I'm not promoting selling the game quite just yet because I'm not prepared to do that. But remember how I said the website will take you to the pages? This is what I meant. So this would be Michael's page, for instance. Mikhail, right? Mikhail. That is Hebrew, and I know we're shitting on Israel and Zionism, but Hebrew, Judaism, and Christianity is not necessarily the problem, right? But on the character page, right, you see the main, like, the main portrait, the card art version, and then, what was that, an alternate? Oh, yeah, it must have been an alternate card art version. And then the original blue with the original red, right? And I'm thinking about actually creating a set that is the traditional blue-red. It's just, I don't know. I think I'd have to also create screens so, like, when you play head-to-head, you can't cheat, right? But then you also get this story about them. So, now, what I had intended on doing is creating, like, and it's not working, right? Like, the buttons don't work. Was that once you're a subscriber to the channel, or to the page, based on your tier of subscription, you can actually do RPG stat sheets, RTS stat sheets, and play D&D, or play Warhammer 40k, or something like that. Or actually get the official art prints and or like STL files to 3D print. But that was an undertaking that I was not, I don't have the resources for yet. So, yeah. And I guess I didn't save that. How have I not saved my own game? I have to add that to, what the hell? Anyway. So, I hope you guys enjoyed that. I just bought 5,000 packs. Hey, as soon as that check clears, right? Then I could afford it. Well, no, it isn't bad. It's just that some of those finer details are beyond the capacity of what that website can actually do. And again, it's Wix, and I don't want to be tied to Wix. Exactly. That is exactly correct, Ari. I actually created the cards, specifically naming them as such, the great or the wise, right? And treated their names as the honorific, the translation, right? Who is like God? See? So, I'm just, to your point, that is absolutely part of their backstory. So, I tried to be as true to the lore as possible, but obviously trying to create a sci-fi fantasy twist to the lore, right? Because the idea is that the Bible is the victor, right? The conquering army, the conquering nation. This is their text. This is their version of how things happen. Lucifer is the devil, right? The morning star, the fallen, right? The one who betrayed God and rebelled against the Almighty and took the Nephilim down to earth and gave humanity free will and so on and so forth, right? That's all depicted in the Bible. So, Esoterra, as far as the Tzir, as I call the angels and such, are my interpretation of why would the Bible depict themselves the way they do and the demons and hell the way it does. So, to your point. Energy abundance. Yes. Leia just reminded me that it's the last day of Latin History Month. Oh. Wait, how could it be the last day of Latin History Month if it's October 15th? That's not even the last day of October. Make a drop shipping system that prints the cards when they are ordered. That way you only print what is bought. The problem with that is it's also cost prohibitive to the player, right? I don't want to charge $50 for you to be able to play the game with one deck. I wanted it to be $20 for one deck. And I wanted it to be $40 for 2 decks and like a little guidebook and everything else to go with it. Oh, that's really weird that the history months go in the middle of the months. That doesn't make sense. That doesn't make sense to me, at the very least. That is crazy that somebody killed YouTube for 30 minutes. Yeah, no, that is pretty nuts. All right. So hold on. I guess I have to relog into all my socials again. Because, I have to keep tabs with my moderator outside of chat. It starts on Mexican Independence Day and adds with the discovery of... Oh, wow. That's fucking nuts. That's fucking nuts. All right. Back to our normally scheduled program. Let's see. Can we go back to light theme? Oh my goodness. But on a real note, thank you for giving me the chance to talk about Esoterra and indulging me on talking about the game. If it is something that does interest viewers, did I take off the links on my actual page? Let's see. Settings, channel. Politics. No, I do have the Esoterra website. So if you actually are interested, it is on my Twitch page as well. It's at the bottom of the 5 social media handles that you can add. Sweet. Back to hell. Oh my god. Back to the apocalypse and the dystopian nightmare of reality instead of escapism through fantasy and sci-fi. Alright. So. Alright, Miss Ma'am. Go ahead and hit us.
Hostages. So how will phase 2 get underway, and what will happen in a mostly destroyed Gaza in the meantime? Joining me now, retired Colonel Cedric Layton, our CNN military analyst, and CNN Global Affairs analyst Kim Dozier. Thank you both for being here this morning. First to you, Kim. I mean, hasn't Hamas already broken the ceasefire deal because all of the hostages, alive or dead, were supposed to be handed over around the same time? Could this threaten the ceasefire?
Oh, yeah. So remember how we said that the ceasefire was bullshit? And that it was just an excuse for Israel to basically pause, rearm, and realign their military attacks, and be still somehow used to justify their ongoing slaughter of Palestinians, because every other ceasefire that's ever happened between the two has always been violated by Israel. This is what we're talking about. All of the hostages, living or deceased, must be returned. Mind you, there was like only 9, I think it was single digits, of Israeli hostages held by Palestinians at this point. Every other hostage had been killed by Israeli bombing and genocide and wholesale slaughter of Palestinian infrastructure. So to add that to the ceasefire, that we want the living and the dead or else this isn't going to stop, is evidence that this was never about stopping the violence. They just wanted an excuse and an impossible bar for Hamas to reach.
Well, Hamas had always warned that it might take more than 72 hours to find all of the bodies in some cases because they weren't held by Hamas, in other cases because the Hamas groups that were holding them, the individual units, might have gotten killed by Israeli airstrikes, and Hamas has lost contact with them. And also remember, right before the ceasefire, Hamas was under attack, so it couldn't be in constant contact with all of its different elements. Now that the Israelis aren't monitoring all the communications for targeting, they are reaching out and trying to find the different units and locate all of the bodies. But it's going to take time.
Let me ask you, Colonel Layton, President Trump had mentioned that they had approved Hamas as a police force for now in Gaza. And since then, Hamas has carried out executions of people that opposed it or that it claims were collaborating with Israel in some way. What does this tell you about whether Hamas will actually disarm?
Yes, Sarah, I don't think they're going to disarm, at least not voluntarily. So this is going to be a major sticking point, I think, for this peace process going forward. Hamas, has been able to exercise power in the areas that it controls right now. And that fact is, I think, going to play a large role in how this goes forward, because once Hamas exercises that control, they're not going to relinquish it. They'll be basically reestablishing themselves where they were in terms of their police powers, their governmental powers, and things like that. So if they're in charge of the civil administration, that's going to make a huge difference in terms of being able to carry out the provisions of this peace proposal.
Which goes back to the point, right? Hamas are the terrorists, except now we need Hamas to find the bodies. But because the Hamas are the ones finding the bodies, they're the terrorists, so we still want to fight Hamas because they're having the powers and responsibilities that we gave them, but we're going to label them terrorists because they want us to stop murdering Palestinians. You see how this cycle of destruction is never ending until all of Palestine is simply non-existent? And I mean, Ari gave us the video. He's given us plenty of videos at this point in time, showcasing that that Israel, for a very long time, has wanted nothing less than the absolute, complete eradication of the Palestinian people. So, in the interest of time, and to catch up to the rest of the videos that we got here, that was the main sticking point of that video. And now we got the feckless coward Biden.
Tonight, some prominent Democratic leaders are sharing praise for President Trump and his team following the release of the remaining living hostages held by Hamas, as his complex ceasefire deal faces a complicated but hopeful path forward. Former President Joe Biden, who was in office October 7th, 2023, said this tonight: "I commend President Trump and his team for their work to get a renewed ceasefire deal over the finish line."
Which is nuts, because Joe Biden didn't lift a single fucking finger to do this. Joe Biden is praising Trump for something that he never once bothered to do, and whom Kamala Harris wasn't going to do anything about either. Again, people are saying, well, Democrats are better than Republicans. In what capacity? Because on the one issue where morals and ethics should outweigh politics 100% of the time, genocide, the Democrats were actually actively to the right of Republicans. Republicans were actually condemning this during the campaign season, of course. Meanwhile, the Democrats were pretending to be against it, i.e. Biden and Kamala, and literally did nothing. Did absolutely nothing to mitigate, prevent, undermine, nothing. They didn't speak to Israel. They didn't talk to Bibi. They didn't even slow down the arms trade. So for him to have the audacity to applaud Trump at all should prove just how horrible, how heinous the Democratic Party is.
Former President Bill Clinton posted this: President Trump and his administration, Qatar, and other regional actors deserve great credit for keeping everyone engaged until the agreement was reached. And from Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer,
Jesus
I
Christ.
commend the enormous advocacy of the tireless hostage families, President Trump and his administration, and all who helped make this moment happen.
And the Democrats are looking to this piece of garbage, this filth, for leadership. This is their king. This is the leader of the Democratic Party. Again, tell me how any of this gets better when Democrats are in office. Give me any, just even a modicum of an explanation of how having more Chuck Schumers, more AOCs, or more Zorons is going to make this country a better place or the world a safer place. They are literally... Trump... The peace deal puts Trump directly, explicitly, as Donald Trump in charge of Palestine, along with Tony Blair and several other individuals. Individuals, not the President of the United States and not America. Donald Trump himself, Tony Blair himself, are the board who will now oversee Palestine. And this motherfucker right here, Bill Clinton, Joe Biden, are applauding the Trump administration. Like, you can't tell me that an active senator and two former presidents don't have the intelligence, briefings that highlight exactly what this deal is giving. Like, there's no fucking way. Many Israeli hostages who died in Palestine probably died from starvation, just like the other Palestinians. They bombed the negotiations in Doha. Why would they blame Hamas for being slow? Right. And they also attacked Iran to prevent negotiations. And, that's right. Israel threatened not one, but two false flags attacks against the United States in the past 3 or 4 months alone. All Biden and Kamala had to do was stop giving Israel arms and money. Instead, they gave Bibi billions of dollars on their way out, and in record numbers for those years. I hope Trump's ego makes him want the ceasefire to stay to not upset people glazing him. Maybe, because he would benefit from that, because then he can build his resort and his casino and all that fun stuff. So that might be one thing that actually does drive an actual lasting peace, but for all of the wrong reasons. All of the wrong reasons. So, sorry. God, I'm getting hit with the sleepies all of a sudden.
You just mentioned how closely you're working with Donald Trump on this. He took some digs at you, as he often does with people, during his speech at the Knesset. Why does he say you're so hard to work with?
Well, I hope he says that, because I'm very tough on the matters that pertain to my country's future. Israel is, where the Jewish people are 3,500 years old. And we've...
Listening to him talk is like listening to Hitler talk, or like Goebbels talk. And again, the fact that his policies, his goals, are the erasure of the Palestinian people and establishing a Zionist state, granted under the veneer of Judaism, and the fact that Trump continues to beck and crawl and bark and jump and whatever. Hell, I found the prop. Trump is too busy licking Bibi's version of this. So again, this is more evidence that America is under Zionist control, which is a foreign power, which is treason. by definition in the Constitution. Right. And to your point, apolitical. Building a resort after a genocide can't get much lower than that. A genocide Trump supported up until it didn't become lucrative or beneficial for him to do so. So... Oh, and now they're... Okay, so yeah, we are dealing with a... Well, now we get to deal with...
Israel says one of the 4 bodies it received from Hamas is not an Israeli captive. The bodies were released on Tuesday with the help of the Red Cross as part of the Gaza ceasefire deal. They were taken to a forensic center in Tel Aviv for testing. Let's bring in Noor O'Day for more on this. Noor is in Amman, Jordan, because the Israeli government has banned Al Jazeera from reporting in Israel. And
so, okay. Hamas turned over the bodies of Israeli captives that wouldn't have been killed if it wasn't for this genocide in the first place, and are then saying, oh, it's not the right body in the first place, from a Tel Aviv Israeli autopsy report. Like, come on. Are we really supposed to believe that Hamas was dragging around a random dead body? Like, are we really supposed to believe that? And even if Hamas was just turning over random dead bodies to Israel, like, would Israel even honor it in the first place? Like, would Israel say that the bodies were fake or not the people that they were expecting, even if they were the bodies they were expecting? Like, again, you can't trust anything coming out of Israel. That's the problem. That's the whole point. And it's being used as justification for more slaughter.
the occupied West Bank. So Israel questioning, Noor, the identity of one of the bodies that was returned. What more can you tell us about this?
Yeah, exactly.
That's right, Foley. The Israeli army is saying that they've identified 3 of the 4 bodies that Hamas handed over to the Red Cross overnight. Now, this is a complication that was foreseen. There is no way to test for DNA right now in Gaza. The bodies are returned given information that the armed factions have about the whereabouts of those bodies. So the mix-ups, this mix-up is not the first. Recall in the last ceasefire, there was a similar incident and it was corrected days afterwards. So this is not being announced by the Israeli army as an infraction, but certainly as an announcement that would be heartbreaking to the families who are waiting.
Well, that's actually shocking. Then for once, I was wrong. Israel is not using this as an excuse. Hasn't stopped Israel from murdering Palestinians, but they're not using that as the excuse. Shocking. Moving on.
Everywhere you go in Gaza, you see people carrying these plastic containers, bottles, and buckets, searching for something that used to come with the turn of a tap: water. 2 years of relentless bombardment have shattered water networks. Pipelines are broken, desalination plants are destroyed, and pumping stations are left without a fuel. And now, as people return home, finding water has become a full-time struggle.
Yeah, so again, the ceasefire happened, right? Cool, the ceasefire is in effect. Hey, go back to your homes. What homes? Like, literally, what homes? Hey, we're gonna just send you back to where you came from. The places that are literally rubble. The places that look like Call of Duty battlefields. That literally look like the aftermath of post-apocalyptic nuclear war states in movies and in television, right? And these people are supposed to survive in this during some unpredetermined, like to be determined later date that they will start reconstruction after they're displaced again for the reconstruction and given maybe an allowance to live anywhere else. Like, The inhumanity continues even with the ceasefire, even if Israel had stopped the fighting altogether. Sending people back to a non-existent home or even community or anything resembling infrastructure is still a death sentence.
Once the roads were opened, we rushed back from the south to the north of Gaza, but we didn't have enough water. If we're lucky, we can get our hands on a jar of clean water in this area. It's overpacked with people, with hardly any water. It's a real crisis.
This whole entire block of apartments relied on shallow wells and a water truck that has only appeared after 5 days. And most of the time, the water that arrives here is either salty or contaminated. But these families have no other choice. And as you can see, it's very difficult to walk through the rubble here, but it's also difficult to find water. Abul Hassan has been walking for several hours searching for water. A truck just pulled up outside this area, and now we're going to see if he's able to fill this small container that he has with water.
It is now 5 days since we came back. We do not want to abandon our homes, even in ruins, but we badly need water. Today was the first for a water tanker to reach this area after 5 long days. Water is a must for us to resume our daily life. It is the least we demand.
For Gaza people, the ceasefire...
Right. It doesn't erase Israel's war crimes. If anything, it solidifies them. Say what you will about Russia invading Ukraine, Russia hasn't been leveling Ukrainian homes and infrastructure down into rubble and not being usable. Yes, there have been skirmishes. Yes, there have been attacks. But for the most part, things have been left alone. This is just demolition, but through the lens and veneer of warfare. So I would argue that as we get more news, again, this is Al Jazeera, not CNN, not Fox, not MSNBC, not ABC or CBS. If the mainstream news actually starts tracking the return of Palestinians to this and how there is no way to survive in that, maybe then the Israeli guilt can truly be showcased as it should be. Because this is abhorrent. Hey, I'm kicking you out of your house. I need you to live in this actual landfill. Or in this construction zone. Or in this demolition zone. Yeah. No. There is no food, no water, no electricity, no sewage, no none of that. No. And no access to food or shelter unless we provide it to you either. So, I'm going to need you to live in a demolition area. And survive on what we allow you to have. Because we're the good guys. That is what the Palestinians are being told by Israelis and largely the world. Which side am I on Ukraine and Russia? Honestly, I'm on neither side because the problem is Russian aggression is not justified. There's no reason for war ever, right? Especially in modern times. But the issue with Ukraine is there was and is a growing Nazi movement in the Ukrainian government, which was backed by the CIA all the way back in 2014. So it's not like Ukraine has its hands clean either. That conflict just needs to come to an end. Both sides need to admit that they were wrong and that it needs to stop. Ukraine has a really good air defense system. Gaza didn't. Well, Gaza didn't have sovereignty over itself to begin with. That's the thing that people seem to forget a lot. And I'm not saying you personally, but I'm saying a lot of people don't seem to realize that Gaza did not have control over its food, its water, its electricity, its fuel, its travel, any of it. Gaza was the largest open air prison in the world, and it still is, except now it's the largest open air death camp. Bunch of fallen bricks. Yep. Ukraine actually has a military and was backed by the US. Gaza didn't have either. Ukraine is also extremely corrupt. No good guys there. Right. I can't hear both sides anymore. Exactly. Both sides in modern times just doesn't exist. There's either a victim or both sides are complicit. right? Or corrupt or in some way, form, or fashion. In the case of Ukraine and Russia, both sides are the bad guys. In the case of Israel massacring Gaza, well, Gaza being the victim. So, yep, this next video pretty much solidifies what we were talking about the facade.
Now, U.S. President Donald Trump has warned if Hamas doesn't disarm, then, quote, we will disarm them. His strong language comes as Trump declared phase 2 of the ceasefire deal has begun, despite the bodies of 20 Israeli captives still being held in Gaza. Our White House correspondent Kimberly Halkett reports.
They know I'm not playing games.
With the fragile ceasefire between Israel and Hamas still intact, an impatient Donald Trump on Tuesday pushed Hamas to proceed with the second phase of his 20-point ceasefire plan, ending Israel's war on Gaza.
Well, they're going to disarm, and because they said they were going to disarm. And if they don't disarm, we will disarm them.
On Monday, both Israelis and Palestinians celebrated phase 1 of the plan, which included the swap of 20 living captives held since October 7th, 2023, for about 1,700 Gazans imprisoned by Israel. But
by the way, the prisoners that were held by Israel were so brutally tortured, malnourished, and mistreated that most of them ended up as amputees. And again, when you have a prisoner of war, which this is called a war, and Palestine was considered a country, or at least somewhat a country, taking combatants into your prison system, you're supposed to treat them with humanity. Like, that's part of the Geneva Conventions. And again, Israel has 1,700 prisoners with physical evidence that they did not treat them with humanity, did not treat them with ethics or morals. So that's 1,700 counts of crimes against humanity and war crimes.
Hamas fell short of returning all 28 deceased Israeli captives, a condition of phase 1, arguing the bodies were buried under the rubble caused by Israeli airstrikes.
Which is true.
President Trump reacted to the delay on Tuesday, writing, "A big burden has been lifted, but the job is not done. The dead have not been returned as promised. Phase 2 begins right now." Phase 2 of Trump's peace plan calls for Hamas to disarm, something it's not agreed to. It's one of the many obstacles to lasting peace in the region. This is another.
What do you mean Hamas disarming is an obstacle to lasting peace? Israeli aggression is the sole obstacle to peace in the Middle East. Because Israel has been the one that has been causing it the most and using America to stir up whatever Israel couldn't. My God. The phrasing of this, the framing of it is despicable.
On Monday, Israel shot dead.
It explains the backstory of the current war between Ukraine and Gaza. Held by Hamas and imprisoned by Israel. Right. And why are the Palestinian prisoners, but the Israelis are hostages? Exactly. It makes it sound like the Palestinians committed crimes and deserved it to be deprived of their freedom. Meanwhile, the Israelis did nothing. They're innocent hostages. Again. And the fact that even places like Al Jazeera are using that framework, that phrasing, you're only aiding the propaganda of the enemy. Yeah, well, he's not a serious party. That's the other thing.
At least 9 Palestinians in Gaza, despite the ceasefire. Hamas has accused Israel of violating the terms of the truce.
President Trump insists Hamas made a verbal agreement to disarm through his people at the highest levels.
Right. Trump insists that something happened because Trump is a paragon of honesty.
But he's refused to specify what will happen if Hamas does not comply. Kimberly Halkett, Al Jazeera, the White House.
Let's discuss all this now with Lorenzo Camel, who's a professor of international history at the University of Turin and is joining us from Rome. Thank you so much, Professor, for being with us on Al Jazeera. From a historical perspective, how does this ceasefire and the push for disarmament fit into past attempts between Israel and the Palestinians? Are there any precedents that give us clues about what might happen next year?
Well, so, Ari, is Al Jazeera Arabic with English subtitles? Because otherwise, there's no way I can do that.
Yes, first of all, let's remind everyone that today is a crucial anniversary because on October 15, 1948, so precisely 77 years ago, the Israeli forces started the Operation Yoav in the Negev. And as a result of that operation, the number of refugees in Gaza rose from 100,000 refugees that arrived in previous months to 230,000 refugees. So more than double the number of refugees. And this changed the demographic balance in Gaza for good. At the time, Michael Gallant, that was the father of Yoav Gallant, the former Minister of Defense of Israel, that said that Palestinians are human animals, participated in that operation, the Operation Yoav, and named his son Yoav Gallant, precisely to celebrate the operation that changed for good the demographic balance in Gaza itself. That said, there are several presidents, and these presidents tell us that this agreement to a large extent is a facade. It's a facade in which all actors have acted as if they agreed about all points that were there, but actually they agreed just on the exchange of hostages and of prisoners and so on. On all other aspects, if you look at the details, they completely disagreed and they did not accept. So for instance, Israel was very clear. Netanyahu was just 1 meter away from Trump in saying that they won't accept the Palestinian National Authority in Gaza. Hamas itself never said that they will hand over the weapons. It just said it will hand over to a Palestinian state when a state will be established. So once again, we can continue, and some aspects were just mentioned, but it is clear that it's just a facade. It's a kind of a Palestinian Versailles in which the main actors are there to enable the war to turn the page, but then we know the structural violence will be there, will remain there precisely as it was, and perhaps even worse.
It was great to...
So, oh, damn. That was the guy who was speaking. Sorry. This guy was letting us know that, A, Trump is a lying scumbag. B, nobody agreed to the actual meat of the ceasefire. And C, it's, again, all in favor of Israel. Both in the phrasing, both in the terminology, both in the optics. Like, no aspect of what is happening right now, other than the exchange of hostages, is going to make their lives any better. Look at what they're living in right now. This is the aid camps. Like, they have to go to these markets in Khan Yunis, Gaza, just to survive. And that's only one place that has it. There are plenty of places where this doesn't exist, where the people are going to suffer, starve, and die outright. So until there's, I mean, again, if the people can survive long enough for me to become president or in Congress, I really truly hope so, because it's going to take some sort of extreme effort on the American side to put a leash on Israel and Netanyahu if Netanyahu isn't done in by his own country. See, and we're still here with the limitation on aid.
Israel is still limiting the number of aid trucks allowed to enter Gaza nearly a week after a ceasefire deal was...
Oh, hold on. Let me catch up on chat here. IDF is what people here think Hamas is. No, that is 100% correct. Trump just wants to say that he won, and everybody is letting him say it, including Democratic leadership. I wonder how Zionists think about this ceasefire and if they think it's fake. No. And I think, honestly, a lot of the Zios are mad because they too wanted Palestinians to be killed. A freed prisoner tells Al Jazeera what he experienced inside the occupation's prisons. There are subtitles you can turn on. I think we might have something like that on here already. So, but I also don't want to spend... Well, actually, it does seem like most of this is Israel. So let's do this one first. And then,
made.
there's a
It
couple
has
of
told
other
the
things I
UN it
want
will
to
only
touch
permit
on
300
before
trucks.
we
That's
get to the
half
end
the
here.
minimum number agreed under the Trump plan. Israeli officials accuse Hamas of violating the ceasefire deal because there are still 20 bodies of captives being held in Gaza. Let's cross live to Tarek Abazoum. He joins us.
So 300 trucks are being allowed into Gaza daily. Didn't we do the math before? So let's see. How much food can one trailer feed? Well, that's Reddit. So, tank trailers for payload capacity. That might be... Okay. How much food would you need to feed 1.5 million people a day? Wow, why can I not type today? Jesus. So, again, I don't like AI overview, but the tons of food daily, 3,000 to 4,000. All right. How many tons of food can a truck carry in one delivery? So, freight truck. It's Quora, which is not any better. A big rig. There we go. 2019. So, 48,000 pounds of cargo. 20 to 25 tons. Shut the fuck up. Which is about the 48,000 pounds. So, according to AI, you would need around 4,500 tons of food. All right? So, 22... So we got 4,500 divided by 22 is 204. So theoretically, 204 trucks is all you need to feed people. Which would arguably be a sufficient amount if those trucks are filled to the brim with food and are actually distributed equitably, which we have seen historically as not the case.
From Deir al-Balah, that's in central Gaza. Tarek, so uncertainty then over the amount of aid coming in. Just bring us up to date with what you're seeing there on the ground in terms of the amount of aid.
And again, that was based off of numbers AI gave us. So I don't want to, hold that to anything.
Coming in.
Well, we have been at Salah ad-Din Road from the early hours of this morning, and we did not see any kind of aid trucks entering Gaza so far. But we understand that Israel before has threatened that it will reduce the amount of aid trucks will be allowed to enter Gaza Strip today if Hamas will not release the Israeli deceased captives. Yesterday overnight, Hamas has really handed over the bodies of 4 captives to the Israeli side. We've got confirmation that at least 600 aid trucks are supposed to enter Gaza today, but on the ground, nothing of that has been translated on the ground. But what we can see at the moment is that there is some sort of continuation for the release of the Palestinian bodies. We can see right now in the frame, let me step out just to give you a sense of what's going on the ground. We can see 4 vehicles affiliated to the International Committee of the Red Cross are stationed at a subordinate road very close to Salah ad-Din Road that is leading to the Israeli side, and we can obviously see
which was the point I was making. Allegedly, 300 trucks are coming through, except for the past several days, 0 trucks have been coming through. And on top of that, Israel is using the fact that we didn't get all the bodies back because they're buried under rubble because of the attacks and the aggression and the war crimes being committed by Israeli military. We're not going to release any because you haven't kept up your end of the deal. We're not going to keep up ours. Again, continuing the tactic of starvation as a weapon, which is, again, a war crime and crime against humanity. So, a lot of these videos are mostly about Israel. I guess that dominated the news because of everything. So, let's cover this next then. Did YouTube go down again?
There's uncertainty over the future of Gaza the day after a huge breakthrough which saw Israeli hostages and Palestinian prisoners and detainees released in a ceasefire agreement. There are reports of Hamas gunmen carrying out executions, and the Palestinian Civil Defense has told the BBC that 7 people were killed by Israeli forces in 2 separate incidents in the Gaza Strip.
So Hamas is executing people, and the IDF is killing people. So I cannot emphasize enough the absolute, like, it's blatant. It comes so naturally to these people, to these journalists, how to dehumanize Palestinians and elevate the language when speaking or regarding Israelis. To me, that, if nothing else, confirms how influential Zionism is globally. It's infested countries, governments, it's infested militaries, it's infested economies, and it's infesting journalism. We can also argue that it's infested education as well. So Zionism is the modern day plague, and it is abhorrent at how effective it is. Let's do these videos next here.
The day began with Parliament moving to impeach President Rajoel and remove him from office. But the decisive moment came when Colonel Mikhail Randrianirina, head of the elite CAPSAT military unit, announced the armed forces had seized power.
We will take power starting today and dissolve, starting today, the Senate, the High Constitutional Court, the High Court of Justice, the High Council for the Defense of Democracy and the Rule of Law, and the Independent National Electoral Commission. There you go, the National Assembly. We let it work, we continue to work, and that's it.
So, for example, the Madagascar military dissolved the entire government structure of Madagascar. Now, that's usually not a good thing. A military coup or a takeover usually results in a military nation, right? Which usually leads to different forms of dictatorship. That being said, that is the final step of revolution, or like of government interfering with right before the step of revolution being necessary. The military is supposed to step in and remove all of the bad actors from power and reestablish the democratic state, or the state generally, right? They kind of they dissolved the state and established themselves as the power. What I'm saying our military should do is remove the bad actors and hold special elections. That's what should be happening. If we were functioning, that's what would happen. Actually, if we were functioning, Trump would have never gotten elected, but I digress. But when the military gets involved, that's the risk you run, right? If the military were to remove the bad actors in the American government, there's a very real chance that they would also declare a state of emergency and dissolve the Constitution outright. And then we would become a military regime, which is not ideal. But, carrying on.
For weeks, young protesters, largely members of what's being called Gen Z Madagascar, have been on the streets demanding change. Their anger, a response to chronic electricity and water shortages, corruption and high unemployment. On Monday night, Rajoel made a last-ditch effort to hang on to power, addressing people on social media. A transitional council made up of officers from the military will now govern until elections are held. But that may take as long as 2 years. Many greeted the soldiers with cheers, hoping this marks a break from past failures in governance. For now, Madagascar is without a president. As night falls, senior members of the military are meeting with politicians in the building just behind me. The hopes of millions of people in Madagascar now rests on talks being held behind closed doors. For many, the ouster of Ande Rajoel is enough.
I'm happy now. For 16 years he did nothing but cause us suffering. He was a dictator, so it is now better because the military has taken power.
Thanks a lot to the military. We are the youth and we need jobs. Because of the president, we don't have work. I'm 28 years old and I have never worked during the time of Rajoel.
I don't know much, but the military knows what it's doing.
While many celebrate, others warn the coup.
There's got to be some correlation to like food and water deprivation and access to healthcare and assets and aging, because that gentleman who said he was 28 years old looked like he was definitely 40 or 50. So there's definitely got to be a correlation between being able to live a happy, healthy life and living in suffering and in destitution. So aside from that, like if you ever wanted evidence that your government isn't working for you, look around and see if the workforce looks like they've aged 10 or 20 years beyond what they should be. Because yikes. Looks like we got Millet next.
It was a meeting where there were lots of talks about make Argentina great again, full support for President Javier Milei from Donald Trump, where they discussed the situation in the region, fighting socialism.
It's crazy, too, that the make your country great again is the fascist rallying cry globally now.
Argentina's support of the United States policy right now to pressure Venezuelan President Nicolás Maduro, among other things. But Javier Milei comes to this meeting facing a financial crisis in Argentina with lots of financial instability after his party lost last month by at least 14 points to the Peronist opposition in the province of Buenos Aires.
That's awesome. So Milei is losing support and his government is weakening because he's a dumb fuck. That is great news.
This depreciated the peso, and Argentina is struggling with central bank reserves right now. And that's why the United States support at this point is crucial. A $20 billion swap, the United States also purchasing the peso, promising investments in the country, and the discussion of a free trade agreement in Argentina. However, Trump limited the U.S. support during this meeting to Milei's party winning.
He really looks orange. Like actual Cheeto dust orange. Like, that is gross. Like, to be honest, that's gross. And that is the face of America right now. And I'm proud to be an American.
In this election. And we've been talking to several economists here in Argentina, and they say that this is an extortion, that this is a threat, that this is a support for Javier Milei and not for Argentina as a whole. Certainly, Javier Milei came to power with a promise to jumpstart this country's economy. He has implemented one of the harshest austerity plans in this country's history that is having also a huge impact among the disabled.
What's crazy, too, is austerity is a word that is used often, right? And every time it is used, it is an example of failed economic policies that makes people suffer horribly. But do we actually know what austerity is? So, in economic policy, austerity is a set of political and economic policies that aim to reduce government budget deficits through spending cuts, tax increases, or a combination of both. There are three primary types of austerity measures: higher taxes to fund spending, raising taxes while cutting spending, and lower taxes and lower government spending. Austerity measures are often used by governments that find it difficult to borrow or meet their existing obligations to pay back loans. The measures are meant to reduce the budget deficit by bringing government revenues closer to expenditures. Which, on paper, doesn't sound bad, right? We should balance the checkbook. Except what do they always do? They cut social programs. They raise taxes on the working class. And then they give major tax breaks to the wealthy and corporations, who then in turn decide, oh, we want more profits, and then create a cycle of price gouging, price costs increasing, and inflation, which exacerbates the burden on the working class that was just created. So, austerity measures are, case in point, or just simply put, the only economic policy that deliberately targets the vulnerable and makes them suffer, and the vulnerable embrace because of charismatic authoritarians in power saying, it's definitely going to work this time, trust me.
Pensioners, hospitals, universities, among other things. We've been seeing lots of protests on the streets in the past few months. There's legislative elections happening at the end of October here in Argentina. Congress here has been managing to block key reforms. The opposition also has overturned several presidential vetoes. So certainly the support that Donald Trump is giving Javier Milei at this point is crucial to be able to know if the president will manage, or his party will manage, to win during these legislative elections. And of course, that will also be what he'll be able to achieve in the 2 years he has left in office. Teresa Bo, Al Jazeera, Buenos Aires.
Don't miss out. Get the full picture.
Well, speaking of Ukraine and Russia, now every time it takes a second to log in,
Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky said Russia targeted the country with 450 drones and 30 missiles in a countrywide attack targeting the energy sector overnight on Friday, causing power outages across 9 regions. Kyiv's mayor Vitaly Klitschko said on social media that 5 people had been injured in Russian attacks on the capital. Officials in Zaporizhia said a 7-year-old child was killed in an airstrike there. Ukraine's Minister for Energy said that Moscow was carrying out a massive strike on energy infrastructure. President Zelensky has urged decisive actions from allies after the strike.
So, Russia is engaging in war against the Ukrainians and targeting lawful things like electrical centers, power grids, and so on and so forth, causing, the energy sector, causing power outages. That's lawful targets, by the way. That is perfectly legal within the Geneva Conventions. What isn't is the civilians getting hurt and residents in eastern districts, right? So, and then this is obviously a war crime. You can't kill children with drones. Point being, this is a conflict that is often overlooked, I think, both in the news and by people like me, right? Influencers, media, even places like BBC, because what's happening between these two countries is a military conflict that isn't escalating into wholesale slaughter. The reason why we cover Israel and Palestine so closely and so often is to highlight how egregious and abysmal it is what Israel is doing to the Palestinians. And so when we do finally cover Ukraine and Russia, it's because something major happened in that theater, which is why we were able for quite some time to stream Tuesdays and Wednesdays with a Thursday game day instead of needing to do recap because of what the fuck's going on with Palestine or Israel attacking Iran in the middle of the night, right? So just to highlight that the Russia-Ukrainian war is still a problem and it's not going away anytime soon, but it isn't the same level of horror that we are seeing in Gaza. I hope that clears that up.
US Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth says NATO allies are expected to buy more American weapons and supply them to Ukraine after a key arms agreement. Hegseth spoke ahead of a meeting in Brussels earlier today where NATO defense ministers were weighing their response to Russian aggression.
Firepower. That's what is coming. We expect it is coming from NATO. You get peace when you are strong.
Why are all of these leaders... Why are all of these world leaders, ministers of defense, why do they all look like if somebody was trying to create something vaguely human looking? Malay looks like something straight out of Alice in Wonderland. This fucking guy has the weirdest proportions ever. Pete Hegseth, again, just looks like the guy from Idiocracy. Like, and Trump literally looks absolutely like he just smeared Cheeto dust on his face. You got Laura Loomer, who looks like Jigsaw. That is not a false statement to make. And all of these people they look so fucking weird. Am I gonna like turn into a caricature of a human being as soon as I get elected to Congress? Is my forehead just gonna expand 5,000-fold, right? Is my nose gonna grow and expand? Is my chin just gonna come out to here or something? Like, is my jawline gonna go out to like? Is something gonna happen to me? Am I gonna transform? Am I gonna polymorph? Mark Rutte is a horrible guy. But it's the bad guys, right? I'm assuming this guy, the Belgian dude, and Pete Hegseth, they're both bad people. And they're the ones that look weird as shit, is what I'm getting at. So that's good. So until I become an evil overlord, I get to keep this slick hairline and a normal 5-head instead of a 7-head. Oh, he's Dutch? Oh, because it said Brussels. What do I know? I'm just an American.
Not when you use strong words or wag your finger. You get it when you have strong and real capabilities that adversaries respect. And I believe that's what NATO is doing. I believe that's what the Pearl Initiative is. So our expectation today is that more...
The only time having weapons kept wars from happening was when the height of the Cold War with mutually assured destruction was a very real, clear, and present danger. Now, it's not. Also, American military might is falling behind rapidly despite our massive investment in military might because we keep sending it over to Israel and crippling our own economy, which prevents us from investing further. Meanwhile, China is creating like Generation 7 fighter craft and drone carriers. Like, if we had even close to a drone carrier, do you think this motherfucker would be doing anything other than posting about it on social media and bragging about it on the news? We don't have drone carriers. China does. I don't think we even have 6th generation aircraft. China does. Like, I don't know what to... Firepower is what generates respect between adversaries. Well, that's why we're being disrespected then, because we no longer have the firepower that we once did, because we wasted it over the course of 20 years in the Middle East and giving it to Israel to murder Palestinians.
Countries donate even more, that they purchase even more to provide for Ukraine to bring that conflict to a peaceful conclusion.
Hey, the more of our guns and bombs you buy and the more of our warships and planes that you buy, the sooner we can end this peacefully. That's not how that works. Let's just arm all of Europe to deter Russia from attacking Ukraine because Russia fears the armament of a unified Europe doing something against Russia. Again, this is just a continuation of the Cold War. Everybody who is currently in charge is in their 60s or 70s and thinks Reagan is still in office. Like, the Cold War is over. Russia is not the enemy. Russia is only an adversary, militarily, if you provoke them. Russia should be a trade ally. For fuck's sake, all of Europe imports gas and fuel from Russia. Still, to this day, despite the Ukrainian thing. They're just gathering armament. For what? Oh, gee. Why do countries ever stockpile weapons? Because they want to feel safe? No, because they want an excuse to use them. Otherwise, why would you stockpile the weapons? Eventually, they go bad. They rust. You need to pay to maintain them. So what's cheaper, maintaining them or using them and not having that problem anymore? It's just the most idiotic logic that is constantly used by weak, insecure leaders who happen to mostly be men. Or universally men. I'm sorry, firepower coming to what? Yeah, I hate this guy so much. Pete Hegseth looks like the douchebag that he is. And he is the douchebag that he is. It's crazy. Like, if you wanted to think of, like, racist, bully, white supremacist jock bro who peaked in high school, but now is a cop. Except he's also the Secretary of Defense. He cries when he sees the melting pot. Right. Oh no! Diversity! Ah! Certain drunks cry like that. Pete sounds like he's trying to be an edgelord, but he's an actual government official. Right. He's trying to sound edgy. Like, I have seen Reddit posts that are about as edgy or edgier than what he just said. And he's trying to sound like a Redditor. It's insane. While we're under the deception of peace, money keeps being concentrated to the military-industrial complex. Exactly. So.
Supplying American-made Tomahawk missiles to Kyiv. President Trump says he expects Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky to push for those Tomahawks when the two leaders meet at the White House on Friday. So let's get the view from Europe. CNN senior international correspondent Fred Pleitgen is joining us from Berlin with the latest. So with President Zelensky heading to the White House, as I say, Fred, on Friday, all eyes on the big question of whether Donald Trump will in fact provide those Tomahawks.
Why would he?
Yeah, what progress such talks are going to make. It was quite interesting, of course, to hear President Trump speak about this yesterday.
Because of
he said he knows that
I thought this was still NATO.
Going to come to Washington, D.C., not only asking for, obviously, more air defense capabilities for the Ukrainians to try and fend off some of those Russian attacks on Ukraine's infrastructure, which, of course, have increased drastically over the last couple of months, but that he also believes that Volodymyr Zelensky is going to be asking for those Tomahawk missiles. And President Trump keeps saying, look, maybe he would be willing to give the Ukrainians those Tomahawk missiles if President Putin of Russia is not willing, or President Trump does not see a willingness to end the war in Ukraine, but he sort of left that open.
Right. We'll give you missiles if the war continues. Or if it looks like it's going to continue. Buddy, like, all you're doing is encouraging Putin to keep fighting, because it's like, well, I'm not going to just let you give these missiles to them and then just leave myself open. Like, again, arms races only lead to more conflict and more tension, because why else would you stockpile arms? Like, that is literally how World War I started. That was the actual, Archduke Franz Ferdinand was murdered. Yes. Okay, fine. Yeah. That was the reason. But it was actually because all of Europe got guns and bombs and tanks and were like, let's go. We just need an excuse. And that's the fucking problem. That is the entire problem.
But of course, that is a question that looms over that NATO summit that is going on in Brussels. Specifically, the NATO member states did not speak about this. And it was quite interesting to hear earlier today, the Secretary General of NATO, Mark Rutte, he came out and he said, look, obviously NATO is in favor of that meeting and very happy about that meeting between President Trump and Volodymyr Zelensky. But any questions about supplying Tomahawk missiles to the Ukrainians is a bilateral issue between the United States and between Ukraine, both if the U.S. directly supplied those weapons to the Ukrainians, but also if under that Pearl initiative that we just heard Pete Hegseth, the U.S. Secretary of War, speak about, the U.S. were to sell those weapons to European NATO member states to then give them to Ukraine. The U.S. obviously would have to sign off on those being transferred and how those would be used by the Ukrainians as well. So it's a question that looms over that summit, but certainly not one.
All I can think of is Megamind. I'm sorry, but Megamind, just that's it. And who stands like that? I get it's awkward standing on a stage, right? Like, I get it. It's awkward standing on a stage, right? What are you going to do? But he's standing like this. He's standing like this. Cock out. Like, if you're going to stand on stage, like, maybe like this, parade rest, hands forward, hands in pockets, you know, maybe one of these, but, like, what the fuck? Why is everyone in our government a fucking clown?
And that anybody who's at that summit is willing to speak about directly. Pete Hegseth, of course, speaking at length about that Pearl initiative and about the fact that many NATO member states have committed to spending more on defense. One of the points that he made, obviously always good for a one-liner, he said it's time for NATO member states to turn goals into guns, as he put it, Christina.
Very catchy. Fred, we know that NATO members are looking for ways to plug holes in their vulnerable air defences, given the amount of drone incursions that we've seen. Were there any commitments or decisions made on that today?
Absolutely massive topic at that summit, absolutely massive topic here in continental Europe, certainly in Eastern Europe as well. I think one of the things that recent drone sightings that we've seen in Denmark, for instance, but over German airports as well, and then, of course, that incursion that happened in Poland, but also those Russian jets that allegedly flew over Estonian territory, even though, of course, the Russians still deny that. That has certainly laid bare some of the issues that NATO has in its...
Everybody still refers to Russia as the Russians. The boogeyman. Like, I seriously hate the phrasing and how absolutely cooked our news media are. Like, every single news media network, it just feeds the propaganda. The evil Russians, the praiseworthy Israeli Zionists, and the evil Palestinians and the victim Ukrainians. Like, can they just be more obvious on the bias? It's just it's galling.
Defense capabilities. There's two things really that the alliance is looking at right now. Also, the Secretary General of NATO spoke about this. On the one hand, obviously, to improve those capabilities, they did say that they felt that NATO...
Oh, sorry. I actually paused that to read chat and then I forgot. He looks like one of the senseis that constantly loses in Cobra Kai. Here's a crazy idea. Let them build their own weapons without money, desperately needed to lower income areas being used to build it. Just get MacGyver-ish and build them. When you see people walking along in those side videos on the right, those are the walks of people who don't need to go out there and put their lives on the line. No, so that last point that you were making, yes. People that we keep seeing in the video... Jeez, I'm sorry. I saw that face and it just made me laugh. Actually, this is a prime example. This is the face of promoting propaganda. This is all it is right? If they were Canadian, it would be like the head thing from South Park. This is what it sounds like. This is what it looks like. Look at the dead eyes. No emotion, just propaganda. Like, that's all it fucking is. And it's so blatant. You know what I mean? It's blatant. Oh, Putin's showing vulnerability, folks. Uh-oh. What did he do? Hug his child?
What is the administration's strategy here, and could tomahawks exert the pressure needed to get Russia to the negotiating table? Let's bring in former NATO Deputy Secretary General Rose Gottemoeller. She is joining us now live from California. Rose, it is good to see you. So President Trump is coming off of what he's described as a peace victory in Gaza, and he's using, in his words, the same model to try to bring this war in Ukraine to an end. Is that a valid analogy in your view that he's making? Whatever went into the actions that got to that ceasefire in Gaza can be done now in Ukraine.
He certainly had to pressure the leader of Israel, Mr. Netanyahu, to get this solution, the ceasefire in Gaza.
Is it just me? Or is it every time these people use the word solution, it sounds like they're trying very hard not to say final solution? Like, does it not sound like a dog whistle to you? Or am I just that jaded at this point? When I hear these words, solution, I forget what, I'm sorry, like, brain is kind of fried. It's been a long day for me today. But like, specifically whenever I hear journalists or public officials say the word solution like that with regards to military or socioeconomic issues or demographics, it just sounds like final solution. Maybe I'm too jaded. If Blue were still in office and did what he's been doing, he'd say that's a bad thing, but he's doing it, so he says he never failed. Yeah, well, that's the thing. Red versus Blue MAGA. It's all the same thing. My team is the only team that can do anything because we're the best team at doing it. And if the other team does something, they did it wrong because it wasn't my team that did it. Even if my team would do the same thing.
So I think he's looking to apply some tough pressure on Vladimir Putin. The question is how best to do it. The Russians have discounted, as you just heard, the Tomahawk as being, not a game changer in the war. On the other hand,
so the Tomahawks don't even bother him.
Supplying a bigger and more capable weapon than the U.S. has supplied up to this point. So is this the way to do it? I'm not sure. There could be other inducements that the president may try on Vladimir Putin, such as opening up more economic opportunities. Those kinds of things have been very attractive to Putin in the past. So I don't think it's going to be a kind of...
Okay. So this is just another propaganda video. Every other video we have is about Gaza, and honestly, I don't want to be depressed. But there doesn't seem to be much in the way of news for the foreign affairs, what's happening, right? So I'm genuinely not certain. Oh, here we go. This would be an interesting one. Syria and Russia are beginning to get along. Like, that's fairly noteworthy. Oh, and the top U.S. world headlines for today. So yeah, like, the thing with Russia and Putin specifically is Putin is usually in it for the money or for expanding the glory of Russia. You're not going to threaten Russia. If threatening Russia worked, the Mongols, the Mongols conquered Russia, so that's not entirely accurate. If threatening Russia worked, it would have been done in the 14th century and beyond. But it doesn't, because the Russians have survived Mongol invasions. Russia, the weather, right, the actual climate of Russia, they've survived numerous invasions during World War I and World War II, and then they survived the Cold War. Yeah, the USSR fell apart, but Russia didn't. You can't intimidate Russia. You can negotiate with Russia, and you can fight Russia, but you can't intimidate Russia. And to try to do that is the highest form of stupidity that you could possibly get to. And that reminds me, tomorrow's domestic and foreign mixed topic show, we should try to fit in the final solution favoring group chat young team red stuff. No, we definitely should cover that again. Because I think we only covered like one video or maybe two on it. And only one of those videos seemed to be pretty damning. Right, and the U.S. is buddy-buddy with Qatar. It might have worked with Khrushchev, but not here. Right, you have a former KGB agent and billionaire in his own right in charge of Russia. What does Trump have? Like 5 bankruptcies and a sheer corruption holding his wealth and empire afloat. So let's do this. What do we got here?
Our top story, Syrian President Ahmad al-Sharaa told the Russian President Vladimir Putin today at a meeting in Moscow that Syria will respect all past agreements. This in his first visit to Moscow since rebels led by Sharaa toppled Russia's ally, President Bashar al-Assad, last year. Al-Sharaa is also formally requesting the handover of Bashar al-Assad so that he might be extradited to Syria. He fled to Moscow in the aftermath of his ouster.
I mean, that seems pretty reasonable. Hey, remember when you tried to influence our country the same way America influences the rest of the world? Well, we stopped that, but hey, now that everything's hunky-dory again, we just want our war criminal back so we can execute him, and then we can be, two sovereign states sovereign stating next to each other again. Like, this proves that Putin is willing to be reasonable. This is proof that Russia isn't this warmongering, egomaniacal country that just wants blood, unlike Israel, right? There is no negotiating with Israel because their bottom line is to murder everyone that isn't Israel, right? They want Zionism to usher in the end times, the apocalypse, the rapture, right? That's Zionism in a nutshell. Russia is just like, all right, I want your oil though. And Syria's like, all right, I just want our war criminal back so we can execute him. This is how that should be going.
Dear Mr. President, dear colleagues, we are very pleased to welcome you to Moscow. Our countries have developed a special relationship over many decades. We've maintained diplomatic ties for over 80 years, and they were established during the most difficult times for Russia and the Soviet Union in 1944. During this time, relations between Syria and Russia have always been exceptionally friendly.
We are linked by a number of things, including a part of Syrian food which comes from Russia, as well as our energy which relies on Russian expertise.
Really?
We also have strategic relationships both regionally and internationally. We respect our common history and will uphold our previously signed agreements. We are trying to redefine our relationship with Russia, emphasizing the independence and sovereignty of Syria, our territorial integrity, and our national security that is connected to international security.
Well, for more on this story, I'm joined in...
This was probably one of the very few news things that was just not good, not bad, certainly not dystopian nightmare, but just, when two countries that want to get along and focus on getting along as the final product succeed in getting along. I mean, and I know that's silly. Like, I'm praising the fact that two countries actually work together for a common goal of getting along, but like, so much of what we've been covering has been the opposite. Israel doesn't want to get along with Palestine. Palestine is desperately trying to get Israel to stop murdering them. And the rest of the world is like, no, Palestine, you should also cease to exist. You should let Israel have what they want because Israel is the victim always. Like, to see two countries outside of the Western dynamic, outside of the Ukraine dynamic, outside of the Israeli-Palestinian dynamic, just two countries with a shared history, a slight little clash, and then like, hey, we can figure this out as two heads of state because we're not psychopaths. Like, that is probably the most reassuring thing I have seen. What else do we got? I'm trying to fill time now. I apologize. Oh. No. Sorry. See, I don't know.
At the end of the year in 2024, after more than 13 years of continuous warfare and more than 650,000 deaths, the Assad regime in Syria finally collapsed following a major renewed offensive that was launched by the Turkish-backed HTS faction. For Turkey, it was the culmination of more than a decade of careful strategy to remove Assad from power and to shift Syria to being within their own sphere of influence. Ever since the civil war next door first erupted in 2011, Syria became a maw of chaos that had saddled Turkey with a litany of problems that it could never easily solve. More than 3 million Syrian refugees fled the war and crossed the border over into Turkey.
But didn't Obama and America stir up that shit in the first place? All right, let me pull up the playlist then. It is confirmed that Bashar is in Moscow playing video games. Shit. If you can be a gamer and a world leader and get invited to other countries to play video games there, I am fucking ready. I'm gonna be the best there ever was. No, wait, did we get to cover the Canada thing? We did, didn't we? Okay. Oh, Macron reappoints another fucking PM? What the fuck? What the fuck is this shit? Oh, and that was the video I had just found here. It seemed, or a different one. All right, let's start off the top. Hey. Okay, thought YouTube crashed on us again. Hold on. What do you... I thought you said, wasn't Bashar the actual president? Or did I get the two names confused? Oh, the guy that was backed by Moscow. I see what you're saying. Never mind.
Have agreed to a 48-hour ceasefire following days of cross-border fighting. This latest development comes shortly after Pakistan said it carried out what it called precision strikes on Kabul. Both sides say several people have been killed and injured in skirmishes on the border. Pakistan's foreign ministry saying both Pakistan and Afghanistan will make sincere efforts through dialogue to find a positive solution to what was described as a complex yet resolvable issue. Our Pakistan correspondent Caroline Davies explained to me what's been happening.
See, this is the thing. The world news focuses so much on Israel, so much on Ukraine, that it completely brushes over the fact that like Pakistan and Afghanistan went at each other's throats, that Syria and Russia are having communications, that there are other conflicts and geopolitical things happening outside of those areas. And that's the other problem with the algorithm, right? If I start searching for Syria or foreign news, it's going to be based on whatever I've been watching in stream. Your stream, your algorithm might show completely different results as compared to somebody else's, which means we are constantly living in separate, clear, defined, immutable realities that is extremely difficult to break out of because the algorithm is designed to force you into that niche, that tunnel. So this is a very good find, Anna. Thank you.
Happening on the border.
We've been hearing about these clashes happening over the course of the last few days, as you say. Firstly, we started hearing about them over the weekend, and then last night again we heard firstly a hum on social media talking about this, then we started hearing confirmation from the Taliban authorities, and then a confirmation as well from the Pakistan side too. Now, what was also apparent is that as well as having these attacks on the border, both sides are trying to get the upper hand on social media. And
I'm sorry. It's just, there's something about the optics.
The impression that this is giving
of seeing somebody at a howitzer dressed in regular clothes
on the border. Both sides are trying to get
son of a bitch, whipping out his cell phone, just like, all right, cool. While just in plain clothes, but on a howitzer, like that's a little nuts to me. I'm sorry.
And on social media, and the impression that this is giving to other countries as well. Both sides are talking about they are blaming the other side for starting any of these skirmishes overnight. We've seen that from the various comments that they have released, and they're also talking about who is getting the upper hand in terms of who is inflicting the most damage on the other side too. It's very difficult to be able to verify the numbers that are coming out from both sides, but we have heard accusations from them, and social media is also full of videos that are alleging.
Well, of course, it's the he said, she said bullshit, but suffice to say, it looks like these two countries are also trying to work together, probably because they're like, hey, if Israel's gonna go after, or stop going after Palestine, they might go after us next.
الشعب السوري بالساحات للمجد بيرفع رايات عم يهتف بثلاث كلمات الله وسوريا وبشار كنيسة وجامع متحدين والمحط عنوان الدين وملايين السوريين وما بدهن إلا بشار.
Oh, now I know who Bashar is. Yeah, that guy. Oh, that was actually... I was looking for... Oh my god, I need to remove this then. Oh wait, no, this is a mix. Never mind. I thought this was in my... Anyway. What a wild song that was. What a wild, just like Bollywood club type music. That's yeah, right. We need some sort of like danceable theme song for us. Did YouTube crash again?
The French president Emmanuel Macron has
shit, I bet that Assad theme song could break the internet. Like, let's go.
appointed Sébastien Lecornu as his prime minister just days after he quit the post. It's the latest move in a year of political turmoil for France. Mr. Macron made the announcement late on Friday, hours after meeting.
Why aren't the French revolutioning? Honestly. Macron is like, you're not going to resign. I want to resign. No, you're going to not resign. And the French are protesting, but they're not removing Macron. Or Macron, or whatever the... Macaron. I don't give a shit what his name is. Why is he still in office? Why?
The main opposition parties, except for the leaders of the far left and the far right. Mr. Lecornu told French media there weren't many candidates for the job, and he's working on what he hopes will be a free cabinet, not imprisoned by the parties. Our reporter, Pierre-Antoine Denis, has been following the story.
A lot of shock still in France, because even if, yes, there weren't many names to choose from, they were still maybe not expecting. Many people in France, alongside the media, were not expecting Lecornu to go again for season 2, as they said in France. And it goes even for right-wing papers or left-wing papers. You have Le Figaro, much more of a conservative paper, saying the political crisis continue. And you also have an opinion piece in there by the editor saying Emmanuel Macron is in self-destruction mode, using the government as a hotel room service, having one prime minister after another. And on the
So that's the thing. The French, they will go hard against their government, both on the media and the news, so on and so forth. But like, if they're willing to do that, if the French people are willing to go that far and go that hard and be that based, why is Macron still in office? If you go to Afghanistan, you will see the men are not afraid to die. No one wears seatbelts and have their AK-47 without the safety lock on strapped on their back. It is hilarious. Well, I don't think I want to go to Afghanistan if it's an open war zone where people just walk around like it could be Call of Duty at any given time. All right, we got two more videos. Barcelona supporting
in the streets
Palestine.
of Barcelona, thousands walked in solidarity with Gaza. We can see they are holding all these signs asking for justice, asking for peace, asking for a free Palestine, and the delivery of aid to the besieged people of the Strip. Also, they asked and demanded an end of the genocide in all its forms and the prosecution of those who were involved in war crimes.
It's funny how there's always masked... Oh, shit. Sorry. It's funny how there's always masked individuals that are clashing with the police, which are almost always used to justify using riot tactics to disperse protests. It's like the universal thing. It's like, hey, put on this mask, go attack your fellow officers, and so we can get rid of this protest because, again, the government is asking us to. Like, I still do not understand how this is acceptable to people. That law enforcement, which is a wing of government, is so willing, ready, and able to comply with the whims of government authority. Hey, I need you to put down that protest. Hey, go fuck yourself. That's their First Amendment right. Well, obviously this is Argentina, or Barcelona. I'm sorry, Spain. Sorry, Barcelona. It's whatever their guaranteed right is in Barcelona, whatever they choose to call it. They have the right to protest, right? So I don't understand why officers, if they actually served communities, wouldn't just tell the mayor, the governor, the president to go fuck themselves. I'm not interrupting the civilians' rights. Or the fact that more civilians aren't standing up like, you cannot arrest us, you cannot get in our way, we have the right to be doing this. It just never ceases to amaze me. It's not a war zone anymore, but there's still guns. I was in a car with 3 others, and when I tried to put my seatbelt on, they said, brother, no, we die like men. Well, I guess so. All right, and our final video for the stream.
Bandelis Kirdilis sheep earn him more than $500,000 a year from organic milk, which is made into feta cheese. So the fact that the government owes him $6,000 in subsidies might not seem important. But feed costs him $1,000 a day, and cash flow is always an issue. An outbreak of smallpox has further raised costs and tensions. The government is withholding EU subsidies while it investigates a major scandal discovered by the European Prosecutor's Office, in which millions were paid to people who weren't real farmers. Kirdilis believes the government is complicit.
Those of us who are real shepherds and have no other income are being penalised. The government should resign because they were in charge when the money went missing. They turned a blind eye to enrich their own people.
There are 2,700 affected breeders in this area of Greece alone, many with indigenous species like these water buffalo. Those producers often rely on government support. Greek farmers are waiting for $500 million worth of subsidies that were meant to have been paid in June. The government admits at least $25 million were fraudulently claimed by people who weren't real farmers.
Crazy how that worked, because the PPP loans were meant to go to small business owners, and yet billionaires and multimillionaires were the ones that got the overwhelming majority of those loans, because it was extremely difficult to get a hold of, for one, and two, it was first come, first serve. So one, if you didn't have the legal know-how to gain access to the funds, you weren't getting them. And the people who had the legal know-how didn't need them to begin with. So imagine that. Money laundering in the form of government subsidies going to the highest bidder or the wealthiest members with the greatest amount of ability to access. Like, it's fucking insane. You have a gun too, so why are you scared? Do you shoot it at the range? So it's not that I'm, let me rephrase. I'm not scared about going to Afghanistan with a gun, or that guns are the scary part. It's that if we're all walking around with rifles, right? It's just like stockpiling arms for countries. You do that, and eventually you're going to want to use them. Secondly, I'm going to want to use it. I get road rage. So this is a prop, by the way. This isn't even a gun. Okay? So I couldn't shoot it at the range even if I wanted to. Okay? Certainly not 5.56 armor-piercing rounds. Okay? Certainly not that. That just wouldn't be possible. But we finally made it through the stream. We'll talk about technical difficulties, right? I mean, legitimately. Like, literally. Only partially my fault for once. I think I only screwed up there in the beginning. We had YouTube itself just crash out on us. So, what a stream. What a typical Sam Ronan presidential stream that we've had. But wrapping up, thank you all for coming. This was Worldwide Wednesdays. We're wrapping up at 10 p.m. Eastern. We're going to be back on Thursday, tomorrow, for a recap. It's going to be a mix of all geopolitical, worldwide, local news. And hopefully it'll be less bleak than it's been in the past 2 days. But realistically, it's probably going to be worse. So, join us tomorrow, 7 p.m. Eastern, till 10 p.m. Eastern. Until then, tell Hassan he's not that pretty or handsome, and that Asmongold sucks. And, yeah. Have a great rest of your night. Samuel Ronan, your president, out.